Chapter 4358. Heaven Realm, Eastern Domain, Ancestral Ground of the Golden Spirit Ape Lineage. Two great experts were fighting. One of them was the descendant of the Golden Spirit Ape lineage, the extremely powerful Yuan Gang. The other person was an existence called Jin Zhousheng. Jin Zhousheng was a peerless expert of the primogenitor realm's Jin clan. He even challenged Ji Yufei to a duel. Someone who dared to challenge Ji Yufei was naturally not a weakling. Roar. Yuan Gang let out a furious roar. A terrifying wave of metal elemental energy burst out from his body as he swung the golden rod at Jin Zhousheng. Clang. Suddenly, a spear appeared in Jin Zhousheng's hand. He raised the spear horizontally and directly blocked the golden rod that was madly smashing down. Jin Zhousheng felt the spear in his hands tremble, and the spear that he was holding tightly almost flew out of his hands, which made him shocked and angry at the same time. Yuan Gang waved the golden rod in his hand. His battle strength rose rapidly as if he was about to go on a killing spree. He was risking his life. Even if he couldn't defeat his opponent, he couldn't just watch as Jin Zhousheng killed him. Yuan Gang was the successor of the Golden Spirit Ape lineage after all. His bloodline was extremely tyrannical and the secret technique he cultivated was extremely powerful. It was a legendary extreme path secret technique. Go to hell! Yuan Gang roared furiously. A torrential wave of metal elemental energy rippled out from his body. The entire world seemed to have been transformed into a golden world. What? Jin Zhousheng was taken aback. This guy isn't an ordinary quasi-sovereign after all. A powerful destructive force rushed toward Jin Zhousheng from all directions. It was a force that could even destroy the void of the world. However, a ball of divine light emerged from Jin Zhousheng's body and blocked the destructive metal elemental energy. If that's all you've got, then I'm sorry. Jin Zhousheng said coldly. TSK, do you think you're an extreme path sovereign? Even an extreme grade sovereign wouldn't be able to do anything to me here. Yuan Gang sneered. This was the ancestral land of the Golden Spirit Ape. Here, he was the supreme ruler. Kill. Jin Zhousheng suddenly bellowed. In the next moment, he disappeared into the void. When he reappeared, his fist was already in front of Golden Spirit Ape Yuan Gang. Be it speed or strength, Jin Zhousheng was faster and stronger than Yuan Gang. However, in the next moment, Yuan Gang stretched out his right hand and caught the incoming fist. The moment Yuan Gang grabbed Jin Zhousheng's fist, it was as if he had suddenly fused with the world around him. In that instant, the power of the entire Golden Spirit Ape's ancestral land was under his control. As long as he willed it, he could summon the supreme power of the Golden Spiritual Ape's ancestral land to strengthen himself. With a wave of his hand, he could unleash world-destroying power. At this moment, Jin Zhousheng wanted to retract his fist. However, he discovered that his opponent's hand was tightly grabbing onto his fist, and he was unable to retract it at all. Jin Zhousheng was shocked. In the next moment, Yuan Gang's right hand that was grabbing onto Jin Zhousheng shook. In the next moment, a powerful force immediately exploded from his hand. Jin Zhousheng's entire arm was instantly turned into a bloody mist. Roar. Jin Zhousheng immediately retreated. His arm quickly regenerated, and soon, a complete right arm appeared on his body, as if it had never been injured. Damn it! Jin Zhousheng was shocked and furious. Yuan Gang was right. Even a supreme being would not be able to do anything to him here. However, it was impossible for a supreme being to appear in the heaven realm. Therefore, it was impossible for Jin Zhousheng to defeat Yuan Gang. However, there were no absolutes in this world. Just like how Yuan Gang thought that Jin Zhousheng would not be able to break the defensive formation of the Golden Spirit Ape's ancestral land. However, Jin Zhousheng had easily broken the defensive formation of the Golden Spirit Ape's ancestral land. In the current heaven realm, the extreme corpse poison was definitely a great killing weapon. This was because this was only a corpse poison and not an extreme power. The power of sky punishment could not do anything to the extreme corpse poison. Mountain, come. At that moment, Yuan Gang waved at the ancestral mountain of the Golden Spirit Ape. In the next moment, a shocking voice was heard. In the next moment, the entire sacred mountain rose from the ground and flew towards Yuan Gang. The ancestral mountain of the Golden Spirit Ape's ancestral mountain shrank rapidly. When it landed in Yuan Gang's hand, the entire sacred mountain was only a foot tall. With the sacred mountain in his hand, Yuan Gang's entire temperament had changed. Kill. Yuan Gang hurled the divine mountain in his hand at Jin Zhousheng. Terrifying metal elemental power burst out from the divine mountain, causing countless cracks to appear in the sky. Compete. Jin Zhousheng sneered. Facing Yuan Gang's shocking attack, his expression remained unchanged, and he threw a punch at the sacred mountain that was coming at him. Boom! With a loud bang, Jin Zhousheng's punch landed heavily on the sacred mountain. Rumble! The entire sacred mountain shook violently. Countless ancient Tao patterns emerged from the sacred mountain and interweaved into an ancient Tao diagram, attracting a terrifying power. Jin Zhousheng roared madly. Rays of golden light rushed out from his body and condensed into a golden armor on his body. With the appearance of the golden armor, Jin Zhousheng's power soared and blocked the ancestral mountain of the Golden Spirit Ape's ancestral mountain. Supreme Tao weapon? Yuan Gang stared at the armor on Jin Zhousheng's body and his eyes shot out dazzling golden light. No wonder this guy dared to invade the ancestral land of the Golden Spirit Ape's ancestral land alone. It turned out that he had something to rely on. Once again, the two experts began to fight. At the same time, experts from the primogenitor realm also arrived at the palace of the moon deities. There was someone who was extremely domineering and directly charged into the moon god palace. The result was that he never came out again. This shocked everyone. These guys from the primogenitor realm were finally in trouble. The waters of the heaven realm were much deeper than what these guys from the primogenitor realm had imagined. In the heaven realm, there were some places that even the experts from the primogenitor realm were unwilling to set foot in. Because those places were also deadly to the experts from the primogenitor realm. At this time, in the ancestral land of the Southern Mountains God Emperor, 3 experts from the primogenitor realm directly broke into the main hall. The leader was a white-robed young man. As for the other 2, one carried a big bow on his back and the other was completely covered in black, revealing only a pair of terrifying eyes. "Who is this Jiyu Fei you mentioned? Where is he?" The white-robed young man said excitedly. The 2 behind him were also very excited. "Jiyu Fei? He is in the ancestral land of the demon race." Chapter 4359. The southern region of the heaven realm was originally the world of the Southern Mountains God Emperor and the fire race. But now, the fire race had been conquered by the experts from the ancestral realm, and the Southern Mountains God Emperor's ancestral land had been breached. At this moment, in the Southern Mountains God Emperor's divine palace, the white-robed youth leading the 3 ancestral realm experts grabbed an expert and interrogated him about Jiyu Fei's whereabouts. "Fellow cultivator, why are you looking for Jiyu Fei?" The Southern Mountains God Emperor, who was sitting on his throne, stared at the white-robed youth and asked calmly, "How dare you call my master by his name? Do you want your clan to be exterminated?" The mysterious black-robed man suddenly shouted angrily, "Master! Daoist Jiyu is your master." When the Southern Mountains God Emperor heard this, he was extremely shocked. These 3 experts were incomparably strong. It was obvious that they were existences that had crossed over from the ancestral realm. Had Jiyu Fei been to the ancestral realm before? The experts in the hall were also shocked to the extreme. "You just need to tell us where my master is," the black-robed man said coldly, staring at the Southern Mountains God Emperor with cold eyes. The quasi-supreme Southern Mountains God Emperor was like an ant in the eyes of the black-robed man. If he was in the ancestral realm, he could kill countless of such existences with a single slap. The white-robed youth in the lead of these 3 people was the Star Beast. A Supremacy Star Beast was far more powerful than a Peak Supremacy Realm Supreme powerhouse. The person with the huge bow was the Shooting Sun Supreme. The mysterious black-robed man was the Black Wind Supreme. This time, not only had Jiyu Fei's enemies crossed over, the Star Beast, the Shooting Sun Supreme, and the Black Wind Supreme had also crossed over to the Heaven Realm to find Jiyu Fei. They had been extremely sullen in the ancestral realm for the past few years. The huge territory that Jiu Fei had conquered had been eaten away by the various forces in the ancestral realm. This was especially true for the Heavenly Clan, Li Clan, and Chu Clan. These three great clans had joined forces to kill the Star Beast and the others and directly divide up Jiu Fei's territory. If it weren't for the presence of a supremacy like the Star Beast, the territory conquered by Jiu Fei would have long been divided up by the three great forces. Although the experts of the primogenitor realm could descend to the heavenly realm, this kind of inter-realm teleportation consumed a large amount of essence energy. Even the various great races of the primogenitor realm could only teleport one or two people to the heavenly realm. This time, the Star Beasts and the others had put in a lot of effort. They had actually sent 3 people at once. Haha, this is truly a case of a flood rushing against the Dragon King's temple. You don't recognize your own people anymore. The Southern Mountains God Emperor laughed heartily. The Star Beast Venerable put down the thing in his hand and looked at the Southern Mountains God Emperor suspiciously. That guy immediately collapsed to the ground, his crotch wet. He was so scared that he peed his pants. TSK. The Shooting Sun Supremacy and the Black Wind Supremacy were very disdainful. These fellows from the lower realm were really too useless. If they could be scared to the point of peeing their pants, how could they be called cultivators? I have some friendship with Daoist Jiu Fei. The Southern Mountains God Emperor continued. Oh! The Star Beast Venerable, the Shooting Sun Supremacy, and the Black Wind Supremacy did not show much joy when they heard this. These 3 fellows were not the kind of people who would casually trust others. Just a few words from the Southern Mountains God Emperor was not enough to prove the relationship between the Southern Mountains God Emperor and Jiu Fei. Daoist Jiu is currently in the Heavenly Realm's Demon Race's ancestral land. This is the location of the Demon Race's ancestral land. The Southern Mountains God Emperor threw a jade scroll to the Star Beast Venerable as he spoke. The Star Beast Venerable caught the jade scroll. In the next moment, the information within the jade scroll appeared in his mind. Very good, let's go. The Star Beast Venerable waved his sleeves and turned to leave. The Southern Mountains God Emperor secretly wiped his cold sweat. Boom. At this moment, a loud sound came from outside the Southern Mountains God Emperor's ancestral land. What's going on? The Southern Mountains God Emperor had just heaved a sigh of relief when he thought that he could send off the 3 pests. Who would have thought that someone would come at this time? Boom. Another loud sound came and the entire Southern Mountains God Race's ancestral land shook. Southern Mountains God Emperor, come out and die. A powerful divine sense swept in from outside the Southern Mountains God Race's ancestral land. I was wondering who was so arrogant. So it's him? The Star Beast Venerable said disapprovingly. At this moment, the divine sense that swept in retracted like a cat seeing a mouse when it came in contact with the Star Beast Venerable and the others. Chi Shihai, come in and die. The Shooting Sun Supremacy said indifferently. A group of people arrived outside the Southern Mountains God Race's ancestral land. The person leading them was a skinny middle-aged man with a cold expression and a ferocious gaze. Let's go. The middle-aged man was a little flustered. The Qi clan of the primogenitor realm had long been exterminated by Jiu Fei. However, although the Qi clan was exterminated, there were still some who escaped. Qi Shihai was one of them. Since you're here, there's no need to leave. A ghost-like figure walked out from the Southern Mountains God Race's ancestral land. Black Wind, you bastard. Qi Shihai's eyes turned red when he saw that person. All these years, the Black Wind Sovereign had been hunting down the Qi clan's fishes that had escaped the net. Many of the Qi clan's people had died at the hands of the Black Wind Sovereign. Even Qi Shihai's son was killed by the Black Wind Supreme. The grudge of killing his son was absolutely irreconcilable. Now that the enemy had met, his eyes were naturally bloodshot. Hee, I didn't expect to meet an old friend here. Good. Very good. The Black Wind Supreme walked slowly to the opposite side of Qi Shihai. Kill. Without any hesitation, Qi Shihai directly attacked the Black Wind Supreme. The Heaven Domain was a good place. Even the Supremacies had to seal their cultivation. Even the 12 Supremacies did not dare to act recklessly in the Heaven Domain. If Qi Shihai met the Black Wind Supreme in the primogenitor realm, he would naturally scram as far as he could. However, the situation was different in the heaven domain. The Black Wind Supreme was like a gust of black wind as he instantly disappeared into the void. Qi Shihai's pounce hit nothing but air. "We'll look for our master first. You can have fun." At this moment, another two figures walked out from the ancestral land of the Southern Mountains god race. They were the Star Beast Venerable and the Shooting Sun Supreme. When Qi Shihai saw the Star Beast Venerable and the Shooting Sun Supreme, his expression changed drastically. The Star Beast Venerable was not an ordinary supremacy. He was a supremacy. Even in the heaven domain, Qi Shihai would not dare to face such an existence. The group of people that Qi Shihai brought with him did not dare to act recklessly. However, the Star Beast Venerable and the Shooting Sun Supreme did not attack. They left immediately. This caused Qi Shihai to be both surprised and delighted. "Star Beast Boss, wait for me," the Black Wind Supreme shouted. He wanted to follow them, but Qi Shihai soared into the sky and blocked his way. "You bastard, how dare you stop me from looking for my master? If you want to die, I'll fulfill your wish." The Black Wind Supreme was furious. Looking for his master was his priority. Qi Shihai was just a small fry in his eyes. How could he be compared to his master? Chapter 4360. Boom. Outside the ancestral grounds of the Nanling celestial race, the void trembled. A formless astral wind erupted from a black figure. In the next moment, countless pitch-black spatial cracks appeared in the void. Every gust of astral wind tore the void apart. The Black Wind Supreme was truly enraged. He attacked indiscriminately. He wanted to get rid of Qi Shihai and his subordinates in one go. "Black Wind, you're too arrogant." Qi Shihai roared and threw a punch at the Black Wind Supreme in the sky. In the next moment, the entire world seemed to be set off in a monstrous wave. The violent fist force swept up, penetrating through every opening and directly blocking the invisible astral wind that covered the sky and covered the earth. "Haha, do you think this is the ancestral realm?" Qi Shihai laughed wantonly and insolently. In the primogenitor realm, he was chased by the Black Wind Sovereign to the ends of the earth, and he almost lost his life. However, in the heaven realm, he and the Black Wind Sovereign were on the same starting line, and it was still unknown who was stronger. The Black Wind Sovereign sneered. In the next moment, he disappeared into the void without a trace. Boundless ocean. Qi Shihai didn't dare to be negligent. With a roar, a powerful water elemental power erupted from his body. The void around him immediately undulated violently like waves. A black figure fell out of the void. Good Lord! That person was the Black Wind Supreme. In this world, there were restrictions everywhere. He couldn't unleash his strength at all. This made him very sullen. "Black Wind, go to hell." Qi Shihai threw a punch at the Black Wind Supreme. The entire water elemental power in the world was attracted by his fist and blasted towards the Black Wind Supreme. "My body is like the wind." The Black Wind Supreme's figure disappeared again. He seemed to have turned into an invisible wind. No matter how strong Qi Shihai's fist force was, it seemed to have hit the void without any force. At this moment, Qi Shihai felt a wind blowing past his face. In the next moment, there were streaks of blood on his face as if he was slashed by a sharp knife. Preposterous. Qi Shihai was practically on the verge of going mad. She cultivated the grand Tao of wind, causing him to be like the wind that could be gathered and dispersed at will. He was like a real wind that was impossible to grasp, shapeless, and traceless. Suppress. Qi Shihai slapped the top of his head, and the shadow of a black tortoise immediately rushed out of his body. In the next moment, the shadow turned into a huge cauldron that sealed the surroundings. "Black Tortoise Cauldron?" The voice of the Black Wind Sovereign resounded in the void. At that moment, a huge shadow of a black tortoise appeared above the cauldron. The black tortoise roared at the sky, emitting boundless water elemental energy. Under this power, even someone as powerful as the Black Wind Sovereign had nowhere to hide. Myriad incarnations. In the next moment, countless black shadows appeared in the void sealed by the Black Tortoise Cauldron. These black shadows attacked Qi Shihai at the same time, their murderous intent shocking the heavens. "How dare you act so presumptuously in my black tortoise cauldron?" Qi Shihai immediately circulated his Xian Qi, drawing the power of the black tortoise cauldron to obliterate the countless black shadows that were attacking him. One by one, the black shadows exploded. Suddenly, a fist broke through the heavy water elemental energy and instantly smashed in front of Qi Shihai. The invisible wind force tore the clothes in front of Qi Shihai's chest. Bam! With a muffled sound, the fist directly smashed into Qi Shihai's chest. In the next moment, Qi Shihai's chest felt as if it had been ruthlessly slashed by countless divine weapons. Streaks of blood, so deep that bones could be seen, appeared on his body. His entire body flew backward, almost crushed by the Black Wind Sovereign's fist. Bam! Qi Shihai's back slammed hard against the wall of the Black Tortoise cauldron, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. "How is this possible?" Qi Shihai said in disbelief. The Black Tortoise cauldron became unstable and shook continuously. "Kill." The Black Wind Sovereign's figure appeared. The surging water elemental energy in the surroundings could not do anything to him at all. All the water elemental energy passed through his body, and he was like a void. This was the Black Wind Sovereign's wind daoist body. It was formless and traceless. When cultivated to the extreme, no one or any force could hurt him. The Black Wind Sovereign attacked with all his might. He directly turned into an invisible wind blade and slashed at Qi Shihai. Roar! Qi Shihai frantically activated the Black Tortoise cauldron's power. The Black Tortoise cauldron that had sealed the surroundings instantly disappeared. Then, it emerged on his body and enveloped him. Clang! At the same time, following the sound of metal clashing, Qi Shihai and the cauldron were directly sent flying, crashing directly into the group of subordinates behind him. Screams resounded. The dozen subordinates that Qi Shihai brought were all turned into clouds of blood mist by the mighty water elemental energy of the Black Tortoise cauldron. Their bodies and souls were directly destroyed. These subordinates of Qi Shihai were all Heaven Realm experts that he had subdued. It was already difficult for a Qi clan fugitive like him to come to the Heaven Realm from the Ancestral Realm. It was impossible for him to bring his subordinates from the Ancestral Realm here. This time, Qi Shihai had the Black Tortoise cauldron to protect him, so he did not receive much impact. Qi Shihai became one with the cauldron. His battle power was soaring. "I don't have time to waste with you. I will fight you when I find my master." The Black Wind Supreme's figure appeared in the void. However, in the next moment, he turned into a cool breeze and instantly disappeared into the void. "Damn it!" Qi Shihai roared in anger. He was filled with hatred, but he was helpless. His opponent was simply too fast. By the time he reacted, the Black Wind Supreme was already nowhere to be found. Damned Black Wind! Qi Shihai had nowhere to vent his anger. Coincidentally, the Southern Mountains God Emperor led a group of subordinates out of the ancestral grounds of the Southern Mountains God race. "All of you, go to hell." Qi Shihai directly sent a palm strike towards the Southern Mountains God Emperor. "Don't you dare be arrogant." The Southern Mountains God Emperor roared and also sent a palm strike. Boom! Two powerful forces instantly collided with each other, causing a loud explosion. In the next moment, the two figures were sent flying backwards. "Huh!" Qi Shihai stared at the Southern Mountains God Emperor. His pupils involuntarily shrank. This guy is not simple. He can actually block my palm strike. It seems like I have underestimated the experts of this world. The primogenitor realm was the origin of the myriad worlds. The experts of the primogenitor realm were naturally born with a sense of superiority. They thought that they were a cut above others and did not put the living beings of other worlds in their eyes. However, the living beings of other worlds might not necessarily be inferior to those fellows in the primogenitor realm. Kill. Kill. Without any words, the two great experts started fighting. At this time, in the demon ancestral grounds, Jiu Fei was a little bored. Those fellows outside did not dare to make a move. They only surrounded the demon ancestral grounds. The experts of the primogenitor devil race had also arrived. The figure of the primogenitor great devil kept appearing and disappearing around the demon ancestral grounds. Demons were the enemies of all living beings, regardless of whether it was in the heavenly realm or the primogenitor realm. The appearance of the primogenitor great devil made the experts of the heavenly realm very afraid. Boom! A loud sound reverberated. The protective array of the entire demon ancestral grounds shook. Countless array patterns appeared in the void. Countless array patterns interweaved and formed a huge light barrier. When the experts of the demon ancestral grounds rushed over, they did not see anyone. "It's those fellows from the demons again?" On a mountain peak in the demon ancestral grounds, the old tortoise frowned. This was not the first time. Those fellows from the primogenitor demons had been causing trouble. They might be probing, but who knew what they were doing? Gu Fei's other great enemies did not dare to act rashly. One should know that Gu Fei could easily annihilate these fellows in the past. No one knew the actual strength of the current Gu Fei. The last supreme of the wood race had fallen in this world. Who could kill that supreme of the wood race? Other than Gu Fei, they really could not think of anyone else. Experts from the Li race, the Chu race, and the Sky race had all descended. The Supreme King had even issued a challenge to Gu Fei. Gu Fei had accepted the challenge, but the location had to be decided by Gu Fei. 10 days later, the ancient battlefield in the starry sky. Gu Fei had announced that he would fight the strongest of the primogenitor realm's 12 Supreme Kings, the Supreme King, at the ancient battlefield. The ancient battlefield was located in the depths of the heavenly realm's starry sky. It was a primitive starfield not far from the heavenly court ruins. When the experts from the extreme mysterious realm had invaded the heavenly realm's army and the extreme mysterious realm's army had fought there. It was not a good place to be. Everyone was extremely excited. This was definitely going to be an exciting battle. Even the human realm had received the news. Countless experts from the human realm began to pour into the heavenly realm. Soon, in a mountain ridge in the heavenly realm, the expert from the human realm, Azure Dragon, had a huge battle with an ancestor from the Li race from the ancestral realm. Azure Dragon had killed the ancestor of the Li race in the heavenly realm. Not long after, a terrifying expert from the golden-winged rock race appeared and tore apart a quasi-supreme from the golden crow race. The golden crow's divine blood burned the earth and plunged everything into misery. A few days later, there was news that an ancestor of the Chu race had entered the moon deity's palace. Then, there was no more. In the eastern domain of the heavenly realm, the golden spirit ape race's prince, Yuan Hong, came out of seclusion and killed the supreme existence of the gold race, Jin Jiusheng. Jin Jiusheng was a supreme expert of the gold race who had dared to challenge Gu Fei. Now, he had died at the hands of these inferior beings from the heavenly realm. This was unbelievable to all the experts from the ancestral realm. The experts from the ancestral realm who had swept through the heavenly realm had finally met their match. The appearance of Ren Huang had stunned all the experts from the ancestral realm. Ren Huangjiang, the only emperor in both the heavenly realm and the human realm, was invincible. He seemed to have surpassed everything and was no longer afraid of the power of heaven's punishment. Ever since this Ren Huang had returned to the human realm, no one had seen him fight. This time, the battle between Gu Fei and the Supreme King had even alarmed him. Chapter 4361. The arrival of a peerless Ren Huang in the heaven realm shocked the world. The Ren Huang, whether in the heaven realm or the human realm, was a legend. The ultimate king realm supremes walked the path of tyranny and were comparable to supremes. And Jiang Ren Huang was the only Ren Huang in both the human realm and heaven realm. Whether it was the cultivators from the heaven realm or the human realm, they were all excited. To know that in the current era, almost no one had ever seen Jiang Ren Huang fight. This time, the guy from the ancestor realm actually alerted Jiang Ren Huang. This shocked everyone. However, this also showed how much importance Jiang Ren Huang placed on the people from the ancestor realm. Jiang Ren Huang's arrival in the heaven realm was naturally the most nervous people from the ancestor realm. This was a Ren Huang. Who dared to underestimate him? Just an ultimate king realm supremacy. What is there to be afraid of? The Supreme King, one of the 12 Supreme Kings from the ancestor realm, said this. He was a supreme king and had once killed an ultimate king realm supremacy in the ancestor realm. That was why he had the confidence to say this. Plus, in a place like the heaven realm, there was the power of God's punishment. Even the strongest among the supremes did not dare to challenge God's punishment. He believed that even this Jiang Renhuang would not dare to display the power of an ultimate king realm supremacy. This way, with his king realm supremacy body, he would be able to suppress all enemies, even that trash Ji Yufei. He had already investigated. This Ji Yufei was not killed by the first demon ancestor, but his cultivation was destroyed. Right now, Ji Yufei was only a quasi-supreme, not even a supremacy. Know yourself and know your enemy, and you will always be victorious. Especially for the Supreme King, no matter who he faced, he would not be careless and had to be careful. When Jiang Renhuang arrived in the heaven realm, Ji Yufei and the old turtle personally led a group of cultivators to the path of heaven to welcome him. In the human realm, everyone knew of the friendship between Ji Yufei and Jiang Renhuang. Ji Yufei and the Jiang clan of the Ancients also had dealings because of Jiang Renhuang. This time, the one who accompanied Jiang Renhuang to the heaven realm was not the clan leader of the Jiang clan. The higher-ups of the Jiang clan did not come either. Jiang Renhuang only brought a little girl to the heaven realm. This surprised even Ji Yufei a little. However, he could tell that the little girl had an extraordinary physique at first glance. This little girl was born with a Taoism aptitude. Those with carnate Taoism aptitude were innately close to the great Tao of heaven and earth. Naturally, their cultivation would yield twice the results with half the effort. This little girl shouldn't be very old, but her cultivation was already at the peak of the half-sage realm. She was only half a step away from breaking through to the sage realm. Are you Ji Yufei? Outside the exit of the ancient road to heaven, the little girl who was holding the hand of Jiang Renhuang looked at Ji Yufei curiously. Her big eyes were full of spirit. That's right, I'm Ji Yufei, the real deal. Ji Yufei smiled as he looked at the little girl. Her name is Jiang Lin, my daughter. Jiang Renhuang said. What? Ji Yufei was stunned. Jiang Renhuang's daughter? So little? Could it be that this guy couldn't stand the loneliness and found himself a wife? Why are you looking at me like that? Jiang Renhuang glanced at Ji Yufei and said. This is such a surprise, such a surprise. Ji Yufei was stuttering. Old Tortoise and the others were also dumbfounded. They had heard of Renhuang Jiang's name before. He was the strongest man in the heavenly earth. Even Old Tortoise's uncle had to be polite when he saw Renhuang Jiang. Dad said that you have a lot of treasures. How about giving me one as a gift? The little girl, Jiang Lin, looked at Ji Yufei and said with a smile. Hey, little girl, you are right. This guy doesn't have much, but he has a lot of treasures. Old Tortoise said with a fawning expression. This was Jiang Renhuang's daughter. If he fawned over her, he would definitely get a lot of benefits. Gift? Ji Yufei was stunned. He really didn't prepare any gift. He didn't expect Jiang Renhuang to suddenly have a daughter. Yeah, you can't be so stingy, little Jiang Lin said with a pout. Ji Yufei looked at Jiang Renhuang. Jiang Renhuang looked up at the sky. Ji Yufei smiled bitterly and thought for a while. Then, he waved his right hand and a crack appeared in the space in front of him. Following that, Ji Yufei waved his hand and a drop of divine liquid that emitted boundless vitality flew out from the crack. The moment the drop of divine liquid appeared, the vitality of the entire world suddenly flourished. The withered trees in the surroundings were revitalized and sprouted. Around the divine liquid, one could vaguely see the shadows of the ancestral dragon. What is this? Princess Jiang Lin's eyes lit up when she saw the drop of divine liquid. Her intuition told her that this was an incredible drop of divine liquid. Ji Yufei, you're going all out, Old Tortoise exclaimed. The demons behind him also stared at the drop of divine liquid, dumbfounded. Is this the legendary immortal liquid? An elder of the demon clan exclaimed. Hurry up and thank your brother Ji Yufei. Seeing Ji Yufei giving his daughter such a precious gift, Jiang Renhuang couldn't help but be moved. Thank you, little brother. Princess Jiang Lin hurriedly took out a jade bottle and carefully stored the drop of divine liquid. Senior, please. Ji Yufei and Old Tortoise considered themselves as juniors in front of Jiang Renhuang. Okay. Jiang Renhuang walked forward with the little princess. Everyone clustered around Jiang Renhuang and the little princess as they left the exit of the ancient road to heaven and went straight back to the ancestral grounds of the demon clan. Jiang Renhuang liked peace and quiet. Ji Yufei and Old Tortoise did not hold a welcome party for Jiang Renhuang. They only arranged for Jiang Renhuang to stay in a quiet place in the depths of the ancestral grounds of the demon clan. However, the little princess was lively and active. Soon, Ji Yufei and Old Tortoise experienced the power of this little ancestor. In the ancestral hall of the demon clan, the caretaker of the medicinal garden of the ancestral grounds came. A 30,000-year-old peach was bitten by someone. That was a king of medicine that could revive the dead. The caretaker of the sacred spring on the mountain of ancestors came. A bottle of spring water that had been stored for 3,000 years was drunk. The caretaker of the pavilion of treasures also came. 7 out of the 12 sky-shattering orbs were gone. One of the Qianquan swords was gone, and the sky-splitting halberd was broken in half. Other weapons and treasures were thrown everywhere. The place where the elixirs were stored was completely destroyed. Countless elixirs and medicines were scattered on the ground. A heaven elixir that was being refined was gone. Hearing the reports from the caretakers, Old Tortoise almost went crazy. That little girl, Old Tortoise was trembling. It had only been a few days. If that little girl stayed in the ancestral grounds of the demon clan, wouldn't the sky be turned upside down? It's not a big deal. Why bother? Ji Yufei said disapprovingly. It's a small deal. Chapter 4362. Princess Jiang Lin was wreaking havoc in the ancestral lands of the demon clan. The old tortoise was having a hard time. That was the princess. Everyone spoiled her. Even the old tortoise couldn't say anything. However, the old tortoise couldn't wait for her to leave. If she continued to wreak havoc, the old tortoise would go crazy. Fortunately, Jiang Renhuang wouldn't stay in the ancestral lands forever. The Jiang clan of the ancients was rooted in the human realm. Jiang Renhuang wouldn't stay in the heaven realm for long. Time passed. The day of the showdown between Ji Yufei and the supreme king of the ancestral realm had finally arrived. Powerful figures began to appear outside the ancient battlefield of the stars. Among them, there were cultivators from the heaven realm and the ancestral realm. However, at this time, the cultivators from the ancestral realm didn't dare to underestimate the cultivators from the heaven realm. One had to know that even Jin Jiusheng of the primogenitor realm's Jin clan had died in the heaven realm's eastern domain. He had been smashed in the head by a monkey. The gold spiritual ape clan was the inheritance of a supreme. The ancestor of the gold spiritual ape clan was an extreme supreme. There weren't many of them, but every one of them was extremely powerful. Yuan Gang was at the peak of quasi-supreme. Yuan Hong was even stronger. He received all the inheritance his father had left him. If he wasn't in the heaven realm, he would have broken through to the extreme grade long ago. Where's Ji Yufei? Is he afraid to come? A loud shout came from the ancient battlefield of the stars. The voice echoed throughout the star region. All the cultivators outside the ancient battlefield were shocked. Don't be presumptuous here. Why wouldn't Ji Yufei come? Some cultivators from the heaven realm scolded. Die. In the next moment, a huge hand grabbed towards the heaven realm expert from the ancient starry sky battlefield. Phut, we still don't know who's going to die yet. That person smiled disdainfully. In the next moment, a beam of light shot out from his body and pierced through the large hand that was grabbing at him. What? The cultivator in the ancient battlefield of the stars was shocked and wanted to make another move. At this moment, an arrow light shot into the ancient starry sky battlefield from afar, causing the person who had attacked to explode into a mist of blood. How dare you kill my people? A figure who was sitting cross-legged in the ancient battlefield of stars suddenly opened his eyes. Humph. Supreme King, others might be afraid of you, but I'm not. A silhouette rushed over from afar. This person was wielding a huge bow, exuding a strong battle intent. Countless Tao inscriptions could be seen interweaving on the bow. Shooting sun. When the Supreme King, who was sitting cross-legged in the ancient starry sky battlefield, saw that person, his eyes lit up. Little fellow, you're courting death. At the same time, another silhouette appeared outside the ancient battlefield of the stars. This person's white robes fluttered in the wind, exuding an elegant demeanor. It was a white-robed young man. Star Beast Venerable. When the Supreme King saw this white-robed young man, his expression changed. Who would have thought that this fellow would come as well? This was a beast sovereign, a supreme existence at the level of a supremacy. In the eyes of the Star Beast Venerable, the 12 kings of supreme beings were just a joke. The Supreme King of the 12 kings of supreme beings was just a small fry. Me too. A gust of black wind blew through the star field, and a figure appeared beside the Star Beast Sovereign. This fellow was dressed in black, revealing only a pair of eyes. This fellow was the Black Wind Sovereign. I didn't think you would dare to come here. A black-robed middle-aged man beside the Supreme King stared at the Black Wind Sovereign and the others and said coldly, "TCH, this isn't some dragon's lair or tiger's den. Can't we come here? Even if this is a dragon's lair or tiger's den, so what? We will still barge in," the Black Wind Sovereign said disapprovingly. Is that so? At this moment, an old voice sounded. The Black Wind Sovereign and the others quickly looked in the direction of the voice. They saw a white-robed old man holding a walking stick, leading a group of people over from a distant starfield. Old ancestor of the Sky Clan? When the Black Wind Sovereign saw the old man, his eyes couldn't help but narrow. Back then, the Sky Clan was defeated by Gu Fei, and even Gu Fei occupied their ancestral land. However, Gu Fei didn't attack the other supremacies of the Sky Clan, and allowed them to leave. Now, the old ancestors of the Sky Clan had started to attack the Black Wind Sovereign and the others. It had to be said that when Gu Fei didn't destroy the Sky Clan back then, he had left behind a huge problem for himself. Of course, Gu Fei didn't care. He would kill anyone who dared to provoke him. Old ancestor Skydome, back then, my master let your Sky Clan off. Is this how you repay my master? The Black Wind Sovereign stared at the old man opposite him and said coldly, "Ha ha. Gu Fei is a great enemy of our clan. We are always thinking about how to take revenge. This is a heaven-sent opportunity, we naturally can't let it go." The old man laughed loudly. "You will pay for what you have done today." The Shooting Sun Sovereign said suddenly, "Old ancestor, why are you still talking to these guys? Why don't we give Gu Fei a big gift before he comes?" A green-robed middle-aged man behind the old man said coldly, "Oh, I wonder what kind of gift Brother Chu wants to give to Gu Fei." The old ancestor Skydome said, "How about the heads of these 3 guys?" The green-robed middle-aged man glanced at the Star Beast Sovereign and the others and said coldly, "That's a good idea." The old ancestor Skydome nodded. "A bunch of reckless guys. The day my master returns to the ancestral realm will be the day your clan is exterminated." The Shooting Sun Supreme clenched the divine bow in his hand and said while gritting his teeth, "Is that so? Haha, Gu Fei can still return to the ancestral realm? I reckon that Gu Fei won't dare to come either." The group of people behind the old ancestor Skydome said unscrupulously, "He still doesn't know when he's about to die." Sigh. The Star Beast Sovereign suddenly shook his head and sighed. "What did you say?" The green-robed middle-aged man stared at the Star Beast Sovereign with an ugly expression. "It's not up to you to decide whether my little brother will obtain the ancestral realm or not." At this moment, a rather young voice was suddenly heard. Then, everyone saw a yellow-skinned middle-aged man walking over from afar while holding the hand of a purple-clothed little girl. "Lowly creatures from the lower realm, scram." The green-robed middle-aged man waved his sleeves and a cold light flew out from his sleeves and strangled the 2 people who were approaching. "Killing without a word of disagreement, very good." The yellow-faced and emaciated middle-aged man waved his right hand, and the killing cold light fell into his hand. "What?" The green-robed middle-aged man was shocked and was about to recall his natal sword. However, at this moment, The middle-aged man who seemed to have just recovered from a serious illness grabbed with his right hand and the swordlight immediately shattered. The middle-aged man from the Chu family shrieked and spat out a mouthful of blood. The destruction of his natal sword had severely injured him. This. Chapter 4363. Outside the ancient battlefield in the heavenly realm, everyone stared at the skinny middle-aged man holding the little girl's hand in astonishment. The middle-aged man was sallow and emaciated, as if he had just recovered from a serious illness. However, he directly crushed the life sword of an expert from the Chu clan from the ancestral realm. The experts from the heavenly realm did not think much of it, but the people from the ancestral realm were different. They knew how powerful this expert from the Chu clan was. That was because extreme grade supremes couldn't casually appear in the heavenly realm. This expert from the Chu clan was only a quasi-supremes. However, this quasi-supremes of the Chu clan had a cultivation at the peak of the quasi-supremes. His life Dao weapon was extremely powerful. It was a quasi-supreme Dao weapon. However, this sickler-looking guy could actually crush a quasi-supreme Dao weapon with his bare hands. Was he an extreme supremacy? Ancestor Tianqiong had just arrived in the heavenly realm. No one behind him had seen this middle-aged man before. They would never have guessed that this middle-aged man was the strongest person in the heavenly realm, Jiang Renhuang. The little girl Jiang Renhuang was holding was his precious daughter, Jiang Lin. Jiang Lin had finally left the ancestral realm of the demon clan. The happiest person was Old Turtle. How dare you destroy my life Dao weapon? The Chu clan will not let you off. The expert from the Chu clan was furious. He gritted his teeth and shouted at Jiang Renhuang. The experts from the heavenly realm who saw this scene were all shocked. The people from the ancestral realm were really powerful. Not just any powerful, but extremely powerful. These guys dared to shout at a human emperor? Did they not want to live? Even the Star Beast Sovereign and the others were dumbfounded. This was an extreme king sovereign. Ancestor Tianqiong and the others really did not know how to write the word death. Chu clan? Is it very powerful? Princess Jiang Lin tilted her head and looked at the expert from the Chu clan with an innocent expression. Ha, the inheritance of the ancestral realm is not something that lowly beings like you can imagine. A young man in white next to Ancestor Tianqiong waved his fan and looked at Jiang Renhuang and the little princess with disdain. Lowly beings from the lower realm? When Jiang Lin heard that, she was immediately displeased. Even Jiang Renhuang's face turned a bit ugly. These guys are really courting death. Star Beast Venerable muttered. Kill. The next moment, a figure rushed out from behind Ancestor Tianqiong. This person roared and directly attacked Jiang Renhuang and Princess Jiang Lin. A giant hand fell from the sky, slapping toward Jiang Renhuang and Princess Jiang Lin. Dad, these people are very fierce. The little princess, Jiang Lin, hid behind Jiang Renhuang. Fierce? You think you can be fiercer than me? Jiang Renhuang's eyes flashed. He straightened his back and a monstrous imperial aura immediately burst out from his body. What? Old Ancestor Sky Venerable and the ancestral realm experts behind him were shocked. Apart from Old Ancestor Sky Venerable, the other ancestral realm experts were trembling under this imperial might. Who the hell are you? Old Ancestor Sky Venerable roared, and an equally powerful pressure burst out from his body. How dare you scare my baby daughter? You can go to hell now. Jiang Renhuang didn't want to talk nonsense with these guys. He directly stretched out his right hand and pressed toward the people opposite him. Boom, a giant hand directly appeared in the void between heaven and earth, directly obliterating Old Ancestor Sky Venerable and the others. This giant hand rapidly grew in the eyes of Old Ancestor Sky Venerable. He wanted to retreat, but the next moment, he was inexplicably shocked. His body did not move at all, and the void around him seemed to have condensed into an immortal piece of divine iron. Confinement of the void. Patriarch Heaven's shock was really not to be underestimated. The others were all terrified to the extreme. Some of them were not strong enough, and they were so scared that they wet themselves. Boom. Before Old Ancestor Sky Venerable could finish his thought, Jiang Renhuang's giant hand directly fell, smashing the old ancestor of the Sky Clan and the people he brought with him into a mist of blood. Their bodies and souls were directly destroyed, and they could not be more dead. When the Supreme King saw this scene in the ancient battlefield of the stars, he almost exclaimed. He never thought that the sickly Qian would be so powerful. He killed a supreme being with one move. Even a supreme being could not withstand one move. That old ancestor Sky Venerable was a supreme being of the Sky Clan. Although old ancestor Sky Venerable's cultivation was sealed, he had a real extreme path constitution. This extreme path constitution was extremely tyrannical. In the heaven realm and the human realm, existences with extreme path constitution could absolutely do whatever they wanted in the heaven realm and the human realm. However, someone as strong as old ancestor Sky Venerable was also killed with one slap. Even the extreme path Dao artifact on old ancestor Sky Venerable was directly destroyed, leaving nothing behind. Senior, this is too wasteful. At this time, a voice came from afar. Everyone hurriedly looked in the direction of the voice and saw a figure, with his hands behind his back, walking over step by step. With just a few steps, this person directly arrived outside the ancient battlefield of the stars. Ji Fei. In the ancient battlefield of the stars, as soon as the Supreme King saw that person, his eyes immediately narrowed. What waste! Jiang Renhuang said disapprovingly. If I had eaten that guy just now, my cultivation might have broken through to the extreme path realm. Ji Fei laughed. Cultivation is all about one step at a time. If you use this method to increase your cultivation, be careful that your Dao foundation is not stable. Jiang Renhuang sighed. Hearing this, Ji Fei was about to reply. However, at this time, the Supreme King's voice suddenly came from inside the ancient battlefield of the stars. Ji Fei, why haven't you come in to die? There was not a trace of emotion in the voice. Ha! Ji Fei suddenly laughed out loud. The next moment, he strode into the ancient battlefield of the stars and stood opposite the Supreme King. At this time, everyone was extremely nervous. Ji Fei and the Supreme King of the Ancestral Realm Eastern region were about to fight. A battle of this level was rare. Just as Ji Fei entered the ancient battlefield of the stars, Old Tortoise arrived with a group of subordinates. More and more experts gathered outside the ancient battlefield of the stars. A ray of golden light pierced through the pitch-black sky and landed outside the ancient battlefield of the stars. The power of metal was vast and mighty, and a figure appeared in the golden light. Yuan Hong had arrived. Is that the person who killed Jin Zhousheng? As soon as the experts from the ancestral realm saw Yuan Hong, some of them exclaimed. Jin Zhousheng was a famous expert from the ancestral realm. This Yuan Hong was able to kill Jin Zhousheng. This was unbelievable to the experts from the ancestral realm. At the same time, a giant dragon shadow appeared in the sky. The ancestral dragon chi spread everywhere. The human realm's expert, Azure Dragon, had arrived. Just as Azure Dragon arrived, a divine bird flew in from afar. As its giant wings flapped, the surrounding stars shook violently as if they were about to fall from the sky. The little Peng Emperor had arrived. Chapter 4364. The battle between Ji Fei and the Supreme King, one of the 12 Supreme Kings from the ancestral realm, shocked both the heaven realm and the human realm. Countless experts rushed to the ancient battlefield of the stars in the heaven realm. Even some super antiques that had disappeared for countless years jumped out. In an instant, countless experts gathered outside the ancient battlefield of the stars. Compared to the experts from the heaven realm and human realm, the experts from the ancestral realm were pitifully few. There were only a few dozen experts from the ancestral realm, while there were countless experts from the heaven realm and human realm. The starry sky was filled with powerful figures. When the dozens of experts from the ancestral realm saw this, they were all shocked. Only now did they realize that they had underestimated the experts from the heaven realm. Previously, the experts from the ancestral realm slaughtered everywhere and were invincible. That was because the true experts from the heaven realm had not acted yet. Boom! Just then, a loud sound came from the ancient battlefield of the stars. An extremely powerful ripple of power spread out from the ancient battlefield of the stars. Has it finally begun? Everyone perked up. In the ancient starry sky battlefield, two silhouettes collided. In the next moment, a terrifying destructive force spread out in all directions. Wherever this power passed, it obliterated everything. What Supreme King? In my eyes, you're just an ant. Ji Fei was extremely domineering. A tyrannical power erupted from his body, causing the surrounding space to tremble and crack after crack in pitch-black space. It was as if the world could no longer contain his powerful body. Ha ha, shameless boasting. Do you think you're still the invincible Ji Fei? You're just a quasi-supreme now. The Supreme King laughed and attacked, fighting with Ji Fei. Is that so? Ji Fei moved rapidly in the void. Every punch he threw out had the power to shatter the heavens and the earth. The tyrannical martial arts power displayed great power. No matter what divine ability the Supreme King used, Ji Fei only used one punch. Although his punch looked simple, it was all-encompassing. It was the strongest battle skill he had comprehended. This fist technique was the extremity breaker fist that Ji Fei had created when he was in the Eternal Stratum. Sky-breaking kill. The Supreme King roared out in rage. He had finally used his trump card. The moment his mystic skill was unleashed, the entire world collapsed and shattered. The destructive power that was formed was unbelievably strong. This destructive power directly engulfed Ji Fei. However, in the next moment, Ji Fei broke through the destructive power and charged out. Heaven-splitting saber. As soon as Ji Fei rushed out, the Supreme King slashed at Ji Fei with his saber. The sharp saber light soared tens of thousands of feet, as though it could split heaven and earth. I'll break the sky with one hand. With a roar, Ji Fei clenched his right hand into a fist and threw a punch at the saber light. Clang! The sharp saber light landed on Ji Fei's fist. In the next moment, there was the sound of metal clashing. The saber light was shattered by Ji Fei's fist. Ji Fei's invincible fist had just exploded. One fist breaking the extremity. I'm invincible. Ji Fei immediately threw out his strongest punch. This punch instantly broke through his limits. Whether it was his strength or speed, they had reached the extreme all of a sudden. The Supreme King couldn't help but be startled by this fist. Before he could react, the other party's fist had already smashed into his chest. Roar! The Supreme King roared in rage. In the next moment, his entire body exploded. Blood flowed through his tendons and bones, and he was turned into a bloody mist. 3 beams of divine light rushed out of the bloody mist. They were 3 supreme Tao treasures. Each of them exuded a powerful aura. These 3 supreme Tao treasures were trying to escape. Trying to escape. Ji Fei reached out and grabbed the 3 beams of divine light. Then, he threw the 3 supreme Tao treasures into the mountain and river cauldron and sealed them. Other than the 3 supreme Tao treasures, everything else on the Supreme King's body was destroyed by Ji Fei's punch. Nothing was left. Everyone was dumbfounded when they saw this, especially those from the ancestral realm. Their eyeballs almost fell to the ground. How is this possible? The subordinates of the Supreme King could not believe that their master had been defeated. Moreover, he had been defeated so quickly. That was the Supreme King of the 12 kings of the ancestral realm. He was the strongest existence among the 12 kings of the ancestral realm. Yet, he had been smashed into pieces by a single punch. Due to the existence of the power of heavenly punishment, the heavenly realm could not use the power of the Supreme Tao. However, the Supreme King's King Supremacy body was the real deal. Even the powerful King Supremacy body could not withstand a single punch from Ji Fei. One could imagine how powerful Ji Fei's punch was. The Supreme King was actually defeated. The experts from the ancestral realm looked as if they had lost their parents. The experts from the heavenly realm cheered. Who said that the beings from the lower realm were weaker than those from the heavenly realm? Who said that the beings from the ancestral realm were superior? When Ji Fei destroyed the Supreme King with a single punch, all the experts from the heavenly realm felt proud. All the experts from the ancestral realm realized that the beings from the lower realm could also grow to an unimaginable level. Just as everyone thought that the Supreme King had been killed by a single punch from Ji Fei, a powerful spiritual will rippled across the sky. The Supreme King is not dead. The experts from the ancestral realm were both surprised and happy. I knew it. That's the Supreme King. How could he be killed so easily? An ancestor-level existence from the ancestral realm said. At this time, the blood mist suddenly shrank and a figure appeared. Struggling before death. Ji Yufei's lips curled up and he punched again. Bam! With a muffled sound, the Supreme King that had just appeared exploded once again. Everyone was dumbfounded. Ji Yufei is actually this powerful? Green Dragon's eyes narrowed when he saw this. Little Peng had to admit that he was still not Ji Yufei's match. Master is too powerful. Black Wind Supremacy and the others were overjoyed. Ji Yufei seemed to only be a quasi-supremacy, but his combat strength was heaven-defying. He actually destroyed the Supreme King with a single punch. The Supreme King was one of the 12 Supreme Kings of the eastern region of the ancestral realm. Even Black Wind would have to take a detour if he met him in the ancestral realm. Rumble, at this moment, thunder rumbled in the sky. This is. All the experts from the heavenly realm and human realm changed their expressions. Sky Punishment. Chapter 4365. Rumble, in the depths of the sky. Thunderous booms resounded, shocking all the experts outside the ancient starry sky battlefield to the extreme. Especially the experts from the heaven realm and the human realm. They were familiar with the destructive power that came from the depths of the sky. Divine punishment. The little Peng Emperor raised his head and looked into the depths of the sky. His golden eyes shone with golden light. Divine punishment. Yuan Hong, the golden spiritual ape, also looked into the sky and frowned. Dad, what's going on? Is my little brother okay? The little princess looked at Jiang Renhuang worriedly. What happened to your little brother? Jiang Renhuang smiled. In the past few days in the ancestral land of the demon clan, he had discussed Dao with Ji Yufei. He knew that Ji Yufei's cultivation had broken through to the legendary eternal realm. The eternal stratum. To extreme Dao paragons and ultimate monarch paragons, the eternal stratum was something that only existed in legends. Even Jiang Renhuang had never heard of anyone who could touch that level, let alone break through to that level and become an eternal supreme being. In fact, for extreme supremes, the extreme of Dao was not the end. In other words, there should be another realm above the extreme realm. That realm was the legendary eternal realm. However, since ancient times, the eternal realm was only a legend. However, Jiang Renhuang had learned from Ji Yufei that the eternal supremacy realm was not a legend, but a true supreme realm that truly existed. And in the ancestral realm, there was such a supreme existence. The ancestral realm is a paradise for extreme supremes, Jiang Renhuang exclaimed. At this time, the divine punishment really came. The terrifying destructive power came from the depths of the sky and fell directly into the ancient battlefield of the stars. In the next moment, the ancient battlefield of the stars exploded. The power of the divine punishment obliterated everything. Half of the ancient battlefield of the stars disappeared from the world. Seeing this scene, everyone broke out in a cold sweat. The power of the divine punishment was indeed powerful. This kind of power was definitely not something an ordinary extreme supremes could withstand. Even the experts from the primogenitor's realm were stunned. They had never seen the power of heaven's punishment before. Now, it seemed that it was indeed terrifying. This way, the fellows from the primogenitor realm finally behaved themselves. Previously, some of them had wanted to undo the seal on their bodies and recover their extreme grade cultivation. Master, at this moment, the faces of the star beast Venerable and the others changed greatly. This level of power had clearly surpassed ordinary extreme power. Their master was only a quasi-sovereign, so it was impossible for him to resist this power. Hehe, Ji Yufei is dead for sure. In the primogenitor realm, an ancestor of the Li family sneered. That Supreme King is really ruthless. He actually recovered his extreme grade cultivation in this world. Is he trying to perish together with us? An elder from the primogenitor realm said solemnly. Although the Supreme King was a sovereign king, it was still unknown who was stronger against the power of the heavenly punishment. One had to know that a supreme king wasn't something an ordinary extreme-grade supreme being could compare to. Furthermore, the supreme king was a king among the supreme kings. He was exceptionally powerful. These fellows are simply courting death. The old tortoise stared at the figure shrouded by the destructive light and sneered. The power of the heavenly punishment wasn't that simple. Killing an extreme-grade supreme being was as easy as killing an ant. Although the supreme king was powerful, the old tortoise believed that he would also be obliterated by the power of the heavenly punishment. Big Brother, beside the old tortoise, Xiaoqing looked worried. The supreme king clearly wanted to drag Ji Yufei down with him and perish together with Ji Yufei. Roar. A terrifying roar came from the destructive light formed by the power of the heavenly punishment. The entire world shook violently under this roar. Then, everyone saw a shocking scene. Within the destructive light, a figure bathed in the power of the heavenly punishment roared towards the sky like a god of destruction. Everyone was stunned. How is this possible? Countless experts from the heavenly realm and human realm almost dropped their eyeballs to the ground when they saw this scene. This fellow could actually resist the heavenly punishment. Heavenly punishment? Is this all you've got? Ji Yufei, you're dead meat today. That person said loudly, his voice shaking the sky. Is that so? A voice rang out. Then, everyone saw another figure appear in the light of destruction formed by the power of heavenly punishment. This person's entire body was filled with chaotic aura, and streaks of chaotic Tao patterns appeared and interweaved on his body, drawing upon the power of the great path of chaos to strengthen himself and actually blocking the surrounding light of destruction. This is too heaven-defying. This time, everyone was dumbfounded. There were actually two existences that were not afraid of the power of the heavenly punishment today. This was the power of the heavenly punishment that could kill an extreme-grade supreme being. Ever since the power of the heavenly punishment appeared, all the extreme-grade supreme beings who challenged the power of the heavenly punishment had failed. They were directly killed, their bodies and souls destroyed. No one had ever survived the power of the heavenly punishment. This was the case when the ancestor of the Wood clan successfully resisted the power of the heavenly punishment with the primal chaos Fengtian diagram. However, at that time, the power of dozens of extreme-grade supreme beings was gathered to activate the primal chaos Fengtian diagram. Everyone found it hard to believe that Ji Yufei and the Supreme King were not afraid of the power of the heavenly punishment. If they had not seen it with their own eyes, no one would have believed it. You have an eternal Tao artifact. Ji Yufei stared at the Supreme King and said coldly. Don't you also have an eternal Tao artifact to protect yourself? The Supreme King sneered. Ji Yufei was once a supreme existence in the eternal realm. It was not strange for him to have several eternal Tao artifacts. After all, weren't eternal Tao artifacts refined by eternal paragons of the eternal realm? Is this the reason why you dare to challenge me? Ji Yufei finally knew why this guy dared to challenge him. It turned out that he had an eternal Tao artifact. Prepare to die. The Supreme King could not be bothered to talk nonsense. He directly attacked Ji Yufei. An eternal sword qi rushed out of his body and slashed at Ji Yufei. The eternal sword light directly broke through the power of the heavenly punishment and instantly slashed at Ji Yufei. Ji Yufei's lips curled up. In the next moment, he clenched his right hand. His spine shook like a dragon, and a violent wave of eternal power surged towards his fist. Whoosh! His fist was like a cannonball, smashing towards the eternal sword light that was slashing down. Clang! Ji Yufei's fist instantly smashed against the eternal sword light. In the next moment, the eternal sword light, which seemed to be able to destroy heaven and earth, shattered in the void. Chapter 4366. The power of heaven's punishment was invincible and could kill supremes. Before today, cultivators from both the heaven realm and the human realm thought that no one could survive the power of heaven's punishment. No one could fight against the power of heaven's punishment. However, what happened today was beyond everyone's understanding. It turned out that not everyone could destroy the power of heaven's punishment. Rumble, the sound of thunder grew louder and louder. The entire sky seemed to be on the verge of collapsing. It was extremely frightening. Under the cover of the power of heaven's punishment, two figures moved quickly in the sky. Boom! With a loud noise, Jiyu Fei was thrown thousands of miles away. The Supreme King only took a few steps back. The Supreme King's cultivation was still rising. Soon, he broke through to the extreme grade. The extremely powerful extreme grade power spread in all directions. All the cultivators who were watching the battle retreated immediately. Extreme divine might was not something that just anyone could withstand. Jiang Renhuang waved his right hand, and countless Dao patterns appeared in the sky and turned into a huge Dao pattern, blocking the mighty divine power of the great path from the starry sky ancient battlefield. The Supreme King did not care about the lives of the living beings from the heaven realm and the human realm. If they were enveloped by the extreme grade power, all living beings below the extreme grade would be destroyed in both body and soul. Jiang Renhuang had saved countless cultivators with one move. The Supreme King could not help but be moved when he saw this. Damn it! Jiyu Fei was enraged. This guy saw the lives of all living beings as worthless. He was too arrogant and cold-blooded. In the next moment, a beam of eternal God light shot out of his chest. This beam of eternal God light pierced through the Supreme King's body at extreme speed. Whoosh! The eternal light flashed and pierced through the Supreme King's body. What? The Supreme King looked down and saw that there was a fist-sized hole in his chest. Fresh blood was seeping out of the hole. The Supreme King could not believe it. Roar! The Supreme King went crazy. He desperately used his mystic art to activate the eternal weapon in his body. The wound on his chest quickly healed. Clang! A sword, or more accurately, half of an eternal sword, appeared. However, even though it was only half of an eternal sword, it was still able to block the power of the heavenly punishment. When Jiyu Fei saw the eternal Dao artifact on the Supreme King's body, he couldn't help but laugh out loud. Today, I will show you what a true eternal Dao artifact is, Jiyu Fei said in a deep voice. Kill. The Supreme King couldn't be bothered to talk to Jiyu Fei. Sword, come. Jiyu Fei waved his right hand and a sword light immediately rushed out of his body. He then grabbed it and slashed at the Supreme King. Buzz. The divine sword hummed, and the sword light flashed by, directly breaking the Supreme King's sword light. In an instant, the Supreme King was cut in half, and blood splattered everywhere. Jiyu Fei attacked in anger. The power of this sword was not to be underestimated. The sword was the Ninth Heaven Star Sword. The Ninth Heaven Star Sword was a complete eternal Dao artifact. Compared to the half of the eternal Dao artifact that the Supreme King had obtained, it was a damaged eternal Dao artifact. The half of the Supreme King's sword was directly destroyed by the Ninth Heaven Star Sword. A sword slaying a king of supreme godhead. This scene was shocking to the extreme. Everyone who saw this scene was dumbfounded. Without the protection of the eternal power, the Supreme King didn't even have time to scream. His body, which had been cut in half, was completely obliterated by the power of the heavenly punishment. The Supreme King, who had dominated the ancestral realm for countless years, had fallen just like that. Dead. The powerhouses from the ancestral realm were extremely frightened. Only now did they understand why the last extreme grade supremacy of the wood race had fallen in this inferior world. He had died with everlasting regret. The Supreme King had never imagined that Jiyu Fei could use an eternal Dao artifact. It should be known that even an extreme grade supremacy would find it difficult to use an eternal Dao artifact. It was simply impossible for a quasi-supremacy to use an eternal Dao artifact. However, Jiyu Fei had done it. However, after he slashed out with his sword, he felt as if his entire body had been hollowed out, and he collapsed. Even though it was an eternal Dao artifact that he had personally refined, it still consumed a large amount of Yuan Qi to use it. If it had been an ordinary person, they would have already become a dried corpse. Soon, the aura on Jiyu Fei's body weakened rapidly. The mighty power of the heavenly punishment that descended from the sky started to recede and eventually disappeared. Jiyu Fei, die. The moment the power of the heavenly punishment disappeared, an angry roar was heard. A moment later, a figure pounced towards Jiyu Fei like a bolt of lightning. It was a powerhouse from the ancestral realm. He wanted to take advantage of the fact that Jiyu Fei was extremely weak to kill Jiyu Fei. "You're courting death." Just as Jiyu Fei was about to be smashed to bits by this fellow's punch, a furious roar rang out. Then, a large hand stretched out from the side and slapped Jiyu Fei away. Bam! That person exploded in the air and turned into a mist of blood. Both his body and soul were destroyed. At the same time, a figure appeared next to Jiyu Fei. The person who attacked was a young man in white. He was the #1 powerhouse under Jiyu Fei, the Star Beast Venerable. He was a supreme being at the supremacy level. "Who else is there? Come out and die." The Star Beast Venerable glanced coldly at the people from the ancestral realm. With him around, anyone who wanted to kill his master would have to step over his dead body. Because once Jiyu Fei died, everyone would be buried with him. No one said anything. The Star Beast Venerable supported Jiyu Fei, waved his sleeve, and instantly disappeared into the void. The Black Wind Supremacy and the Shooting Sun Supremacy quickly chased after them. "Let's go." Jiang Renhuang also left with the little princess. He took a step forward and disappeared into the void. The battle had ended. No one had expected such an ending. The Supreme King was dead, but Jiyu Fei was still alive. When his cultivation recovered to the extreme grade realm, or even the eternal grade, he would definitely return to the ancestral realm. When that time came, who knew how many powerhouses would die? Outside the ancient battlefield of the stars, no one left for a long time. In the ancestral lands of the demon clan, the Star Beast Venerable guarded Jiyu Fei's side. Jiyu Fei sat cross-legged on the peak of a mountain, breathing in and out the essence of heaven and earth. This battle had consumed a large amount of his vitality, and it had almost injured his Tao foundation. It was impossible for him to recover his vitality in a short period of time. Soon, Jiang Renhuang returned, Old Tortoise returned, and almost everyone returned. In an instant, the ancestral lands of the demon clan were bustling. Everyone gathered at the mountain where Jiyu Fei was. Chapter 4367. Jiyu Fei had killed a supreme king with his sword, shocking the world. All the powerful clans in the heaven realm were afraid of Jiyu Fei, because Jiyu Fei had revealed his trump card during the battle with the supreme king. He was not afraid of heavenly punishment. This was an absolute deterrent to the countless forces in the heaven realm and the human realm. Did not fear heavenly punishment mean that Jiyu Fei could break through to the extreme grade in either the heaven realm or the human realm? In this way, Jiyu Fei could do whatever he wanted in the heaven realm and the human realm. Especially those who had a grudge against Jiyu Fei. They were terrified, afraid that Jiyu Fei would come knocking on their door. Even the remnants of the primordial era became well-behaved. The Sky Demon descendant also chose to hide for the time being. The combat strength that Jiyu Fei had displayed was too frightening. Anyone who provoked Jiyu Fei now would definitely be courting death. No one wanted to die. Haha, my little brother is too awesome. In the ancestral hall of the demon clan, the old tortoise lay on his throne and laughed heartily. The higher-ups of the demon clan were also laughing. At this time, the experts of the ancestral realm outside the ancestral hall had all retreated. Even the most arrogant Tian ancestor was nowhere to be seen. This time, a total of 2 ancestors from the Tian clan had come. One of them was killed by Jiang Renhuang outside the ancient battlefield of the stars, and the other ancestor had gone into hiding. The Tian clan could no longer bear the loss of a supreme king. It should be noted that even in the ancestral realm, it was not easy to cultivate to the supreme king level. If the Tian clan wanted to rise again, the ancestors of the Tian clan could not die. The Li clan and the Chu clan had also disappeared. These 2 clans had wanted to take advantage of Jiyu Fei's predicament to get rid of Jiyu Fei once and for all. However, who would have thought that Jiyu Fei's battle prowess would be so monstrous? Even the supreme king, who had regained his King of Supreme Being cultivation base, could not withstand his shocking sword strike. However, although Jiyu Fei had slain the Supreme King, he had also expended a great deal of Yuan Qi. At this time, he was sitting cross-legged on a mountain peak in the ancestral lands of the demon race. He was absorbing the yuan qi of heaven and earth to gradually recover his cultivation base. Little brother, you're too amazing. At this moment, Jiang Renhuang brought the little princess to the top of the mountain. That's your trump card. Jiang Renhuang sat across from Ji Yufei. In the heavenly realm and the human realm, only things that surpass the extreme Tao can ignore the heavenly punishment. Ji Yufei smiled. The legendary eternity. Jiang Renhuang sighed. His cultivation had reached a bottleneck, and it was almost impossible for him to take another step forward. But now, Ji Yufei had given him hope. May I borrow your sword? Jiang Renhuang said. At this time, the little princess, Jiang Lin, who had caused chaos in the ancestral lands of the demon race, stood to the side obediently. She did not dare to be presumptuous. Ji Yufei looked at Jiang Renhuang and did not speak. His right hand made a grabbing motion in the void, and a divine sword immediately appeared in his hand. This sword, at first glance, looked like an ordinary black sword. If there was anything special about it, it would be that the body of the sword had spots of light that looked like starlight. However, if one looked closely, one could see that inside the sword body, there seemed to be an endless starry sky sealed, and those spots of light were the stars. This was Ji Yufei's sword of the 9 heavens stars. The sword of the 9 heavens stars was the first Tao instrument that Ji Yufei had refined. Since he started cultivating, he had been refining it until today. Finally, it became an eternal Tao instrument. Now, the sword of the 9 heavens stars was definitely one of the strongest Tao instruments that Ji Yufei had. It was also because of this that he could kill the Supreme King with one strike. As for the ancestral sword of gods, the cauldron of mountains and rivers, and the chaotic sky-ceiling diagram, compared to the sword of the stars, they were still a lot weaker. That was because these Tao instruments were not eternal Tao instruments. The heavenly demon tower was also not an eternal Tao instrument, and the wheel of worlds in the heavens was very mysterious. Even Ji Yufei could not tell if it was an eternal Tao instrument or not. Of course, among the Tao instruments that Ji Yufei had, there were many that could compete with the divine punishment. However, they were not as good as the Tao instrument that he had refined himself. Thank you very much, Jiang Renhuang said seriously. Then, he solemnly took the sword of the 9 heavens stars from Ji Yufei's hand. His hand was trembling. This was the legendary eternal Tao instrument. Jiang Renhuang borrowed the sword of the 9 heavens stars from Ji Yufei in order to take that step. Of course, whether or not he could take that step depended entirely on himself. If he could comprehend it, success would follow naturally, and he would reach the sky in one step. If he could not comprehend it, even if he held the sword of the 9 heavens stars for the rest of his life, he would not be able to take that step. The inside of this sword is a world of its own. Little sister, are you interested in going in and practicing? Ji Yufei suddenly said to the little princess, Jiang Lin. Jiang Renhuang's heart skipped a beat. Is it fun? If it's fun, I'll go. The little princess said, blinking her big eyes. It's very fun. My disciple and grand disciple are still practicing inside. They haven't come out yet. Ji Yufei said with a smile. He wanted to help the little princess. Entering the world inside the sword of the 9 heavens stars was a great opportunity for any cultivator. Ji Yuling had broken through to the quasi-supreme realm in there. Zhao Hao, Yang and Meng Long were still practicing inside. Really? Then I want to go, the little princess said, clapping her hands. Good. As Ji Yufei said, he directly pointed his finger. A divine light immediately rushed out from his fingertip and directly went into the sword of the 9 heavens stars in Jiang Renhuang's hand. The next moment, the sword of the 9 heavens stars let out a roar, and a door of light immediately appeared in the void. Go. Ji Yufei said. Dad, little brother, then I'm going. The little princess jumped into the door of light, and the door of light immediately disappeared in the void. Thank you, brother. Jiang Renhuang looked at Ji Yufei seriously and said, how much good fortune she can have depends on herself. Ji Yufei said with a smile. Jiang Renhuang smiled and said nothing more. He directly held the sword of the 9 heavens stars and sat opposite to Ji Yufei with his legs crossed, and closed his eyes. Both Jiyu Fei and Jiang Renhuang were the most powerful existences in the heaven realm and the human realm, especially Jiyu Fei, who had just killed the Supreme King from the Ancestor realm. No one in the heaven realm or the human realm could compete with Jiyu Fei in the limelight. At this time, both experts were sitting on a mountain peak in the ancestral land of the demon clan. No one dared to disturb them. Even Old Tortoise wandered for a long time at the foot of the mountain, and finally returned to the ancestral hall. Old Tortoise's uncle also came back. The strength of the demon clan had greatly increased. At this time, a mysterious force began to appear in the heaven realm and the human realm. In the human realm, in Wanxiang City, on a dark and windy night, more than a dozen masked men in black suddenly erupted in the city, and then attacked the city lord's mansion. The whole city was shocked. In the battle, countless soldiers of Wanxiang City died, thousands of houses were destroyed, and the 2 guards of the city lord's mansion were killed. In the end, the Iron Blood Taoist personally took action and killed those crazy guys. In the heaven realm, there were also mysterious people attacking the bases or strongholds of the demon clan in the heaven realm, killing many of them. Chapter 4368. When the descendants of the sky demon and the remnants of the primordial era had disappeared, a mysterious force suddenly emerged. This force began to stir up trouble in the heaven realm and the human realm. First, they suddenly attacked Wanxiang City, which was also Jiyu Fei's lair, and started a massacre. When the news spread, the entire human realm was shocked. One must know that Jiyu Fei had just killed a king supreme of the ancestral realm in the heaven realm. When the news spread to the human realm, it shocked all the forces. However, no one expected that someone would dare to provoke Jiyu Fei at this moment and cause trouble in Jiyu Fei's lair. The Iron Blood Taoist immediately sent a distress message to Jiyu Fei in the heaven realm. That was because another wave of demonic creatures had besieged the city after he had dealt with the dozen or so fugitives. Countless demonic creatures appeared out of nowhere and surrounded the Wanxiang City. Many winged demonic creatures even launched air attacks on Wanxiang City. Fortunately, the defensive formation of Wanxiang City was sturdy enough to block these flying demonic creatures. However, there were densely packed demonic creatures outside the city. Some of them were even more powerful. They spat demonic auras and crazily collided with the defensive formation of Wanxiang City. The Iron Blood Taoist also realized that there was more than one powerful demonic aura outside the city. There was definitely a terrifying demon behind these demonic creatures that was secretly leading everything. Heaven Realm, the ancestral land of the demon race. On the mountain peak, Jiyu Fei suddenly opened his eyes and waved his right hand. A divine light immediately landed in his hand. Humph! Jiyu Fei was furious. Soon, Star Beast Venerable, Black Wind Supreme, and Shooting Sun Supreme arrived at the foot of the mountain. They then left the ancestral land of the demon race and headed for the human realm. Human realm, Eastern region, Wanxiang City. On this day, a star descended from the sky and landed on Wanxiang City. In the next moment, boundless starlight burst out from Wanxiang City. The countless demonic creatures that surrounded Wanxiang City were immediately pierced by the starlight and died instantly. Even the few demons in the dark were not spared. Primordial demons. The Shooting Sun Supreme's figure appeared at the top of Wanxiang City's city wall. He couldn't help but frown when he saw the demonic creatures lying all over the ground outside the city. That mysterious power was not limited to just the primogenitor demons. This was because there were other experts attacking Wanxiang City's other cities in the East region. As soon as the Black Wind Sovereign arrived, he immediately made his move. Those fellows who were attacking other cities met with the Black Wind Sovereign, and all of them ended up in tragedy. Jiyu Fei's powerful counterattack had suppressed all the forces. In the Heaven Realm, some experts suddenly attacked and destroyed several cities of the Demon Clan in the Heaven Realm. Old Tortoise personally took action and directly killed a mysterious expert. Are they all from the primogenitor world? Old Tortoise stood above the ruins and frowned as he looked down at the destroyed city below. He was shocked and angry. At this time, someone actually dared to cause trouble. They were courting death. Very soon, this mysterious force disappeared again after a brief appearance, as if it had never appeared in the first place. Time passed. Unknowingly, 3 years had passed. Ji Yufei and Jiang Renhuang sat on the mountain peak for 3 years. On this day, Ji Yufei and Jiang Renhuang laughed at the same time and stood up. At this moment, Ji Yufei's vitality had recovered. He could feel that he was about to take that step. However, he knew that even if he had this feeling, he didn't know when he would actually take that step. This feeling was very mysterious. Even though Ji Yufei had experienced it once, he still felt that the feeling was vague and illusory. It was as if it was very difficult to grasp. Even if he touched it, it was very difficult to take that step. One must know that it wasn't that easy to break through to the extreme grade supreme realm. Since ancient times, there were only a dozen known extreme grade supremes in the heaven realm and the human realm. Of course, there were many extreme grade supremes in the primogenitor world. Even in the present world, there weren't as many extreme grade supremes as there were in the primogenitor world. The battle with the Supreme King made Ji Yufei see the hope of breaking through to the extreme grade realm. In these 3 years, Jiang Renhuang had also obtained what he wanted. "Thank you again, brother," Jiang Renhuang said sincerely to Ji Yufei, then returned Ji Yufei's 9 heaven stars sword to Ji Yufei. Ji Yufei took the 9 heaven stars sword and closed his eyes to sense it. Little girl is having fun in the 9 heaven stars sword. As Ji Yufei spoke, he directly opened the inner world of the 9 heaven stars sword. A figure rushed out from inside. "Dad, little brother." The little princess directly threw herself into Jiang Renhuang's arms. "Holy Sovereign!" Jiang Renhuang was surprised and happy. His precious daughter was already a holy sovereign. If she advanced one step further, she would be a quasi-sovereign. In just 3 years, the little princess had already become a holy sovereign. Her cultivation had jumped a few levels. "Haha, good, brother. If you need my help in the future, just let me know." Jiang Renhuang laughed. Sure. Ji Yufei smiled. In fact, Jiang Renhuang was both a teacher and a friend to Ji Yufei. If it wasn't for Jiang Renhuang's guidance, he would have to take many detours in his cultivation. But now, in terms of cultivation, Ji Yufei had already surpassed Jiang Renhuang, because he was at least once a legendary eternal sovereign. Since ancient times, there had never been an eternal sovereign in the human realm, nor in the heaven realm. If Jiang Renhuang wanted to become eternal sovereign, there was no other way but to go to the primogenitor world. Only the primogenitor world could give birth to an eternal sovereign. Because the primogenitor world was the origin of all realms, the primogenitor world had things that no other realms had. It was rare for a perfect world like the heaven realm to give birth to an extreme sovereign. If there was an eternal sovereign, such a world would not be able to withstand the aura of an eternal sovereign. If an eternal sovereign appeared in the heaven realm would collapse instantly. Only an extremely stable world like the primogenitor world could withstand the aura of an eternal sovereign. 3 years. After studying the 9 heaven stars sword for 3 years, Jiang Renhuang finally succeeded in touching the eternal realm and grasped a trace of eternal Daoist rhyme. He had to go back and prepare. Jiang Renhuang took the little princess and left the demon clan's ancestral land. They also left the heaven realm and returned to the human realm. He had many things to prepare. The primogenitor world was not a paradise. It was an extremely cruel world where the strong preyed on the weak. It was definitely not an easy task to survive there. Ji Yufei naturally knew what Jiang Renhuang was going to do, so he did not ask him to stay. "Looks like I have to go back too." Chapter 4369. Ji Yufei had meditated for 3 years. Not only had his vitality completely recovered, but his cultivation had also reached the peak of the extreme grade. It would not be easy for him to advance further. Boom! On top of the mountain, Ji Yufei's body shook. An extremely powerful divine aura immediately erupted from his body, causing pitch-black cracks to appear in the void around him. The heaven realm was a perfect heaven and earth. The laws of heaven and earth were extremely powerful and the void was extremely stable. What is that guy doing? In the demon ancestral hall, the old tortoise suddenly had a bad feeling. In the next moment, the old tortoise disappeared from the ancestral hall. When he reappeared, he was already at the peak where Ji Yufei was. The peak of the extreme grade. Are you going to take that step? The moment the old tortoise saw Jiu Fei, he was so scared that he almost fell from the sky. He had cultivated for 2 lifetimes and was only at the mid-level of a quasi-supreme. This guy had cultivated for 2 lifetimes and surpassed him in both lifetimes. What use was a supremacy bloodline? The old tortoise finally realized that the so-called noble supremacy bloodline was actually a tribulation for him, a tribulation that was difficult to overcome. He knew very well that the supremacy bloodline limited his realm. Although the power of the supremacy bloodline was powerful, it was like a seal that kept his cultivation below the extreme grade. It was not impossible for the old tortoise to take that step, but first, he had to sever the supremacy bloodline inherited from the Tai Huang. Otherwise, everything would be just a dream. However, it was not an easy task to sever the supremacy bloodline. To succeed, he had to pay a huge price. If he was not careful, he might die. The old tortoise was the son of the Tai Huang. He naturally would not be willing to be under someone else. He wanted to become an extreme grade supremacy. When he saw that Jiu Fei's cultivation had reached the peak below the extreme grade, he was surprised and overjoyed. His intuition told him that Jiu Fei could help him sever the supremacy bloodline. It's easier said than done to take that step. Jiu Fei shook his head. He was once an eternal supremacy and had naturally experienced the supremacy tribulation. Becoming an extreme grade supremacy was more difficult than ascending to the heavens. Then how about you lend me that sword as well? Old Tortoise landed in front of Jiu Fei and looked at Jiu Fei eagerly. Scram! Jiu Fei flew up and kicked Old Tortoise's butt. Ah! The old tortoise let out a blood-curdling shriek. Like a cannonball, it shot up into the sky from the peak of the mountain and disappeared without a trace. The higher-ups of the demon clan at the foot of the mountain were all dumbfounded. Jiu Fei went down the mountain. Then, some old friends began to visit him. Golden-winged little Peng Emperor? The first person who came to visit Jiu Fei was the golden-winged little Peng Emperor of the golden-winged Great Peng race. This fellow is actually still alive. Jiu Fei was slightly surprised. In the past, it was widely rumored in the outside world that the golden-winged little Peng Emperor had fallen long ago. But now, it seemed that all of this was just a rumor. Peak quasi-supreme being, very good. Jiu Fei could tell the golden-winged little Peng Emperor's cultivation at a glance. This golden-winged little Peng Emperor's cultivation had actually broken through to the peak quasi-supreme being realm. No one knew what the golden-winged little Peng Emperor had experienced all these years. In the past, the golden-winged little Peng Emperor fought with Jiu Fei and was defeated by Jiu Fei. Then, he was rescued by the old ancestor of the golden-winged Great Peng race. In the end, he entered the forbidden ground of the golden-winged Great Peng race for seclusion. This was no ordinary seclusion. It was a life-and-death seclusion. If he succeeded, his cultivation would increase exponentially. But if he failed, he would end up with a tragic fate of death. Obviously, the golden-winged little Peng Emperor succeeded. The golden-winged little Peng Emperor came to look for Jiu Fei because he wanted to fight with Jiu Fei. Even though he knew that he was no match for Jiu Fei, he still came. At the peak of a mountain in the demon clan's ancestral ground, 2 figures stood. These 2 experts were facing each other, causing the sky above the mountain to change color. This guy must be tired of living. The old tortoise looked at the 2 figures on the mountain peak. Needless to say, the golden-winged little Peng Emperor was no match for Fei. Your courage is commendable. Xiaoqing laughed. The outcome of this battle was already decided. The golden-winged little Peng Emperor was defeated. He couldn't even block a single punch from Jiu Fei and was sent flying by Jiu Fei. Jiu Fei didn't kill the golden-winged little Peng Emperor. After the golden-winged little Peng Emperor, the second person who came to look for Jiu Fei was the Azure Dragon. That's right, the Azure Dragon race, one of the 4 great races in the southern region of the human world. This Azure Dragon was the one who fought with Jiu Fei in the past. However, although the Azure Dragon was strong, it was still not enough to stand in front of Jiu Fei. The golden-winged little Peng Emperor was defeated, the Azure Dragon was defeated, and even Yuan Hong of the Golden Spiritual Ape fought a great battle with Ji Yufei. That battle lasted for a long time. Ji Yufei had the intention to help Yuan Hong achieve his goal. However, Yuan Hong wasn't able to break through the quasi-supremacy realm and become an extreme supremacy. In fact, Yuan Hong was facing the same predicament as the old tortoise. The supremacy bloodline in Yuan Hong's body made it difficult for him to break through. If he wanted to become an extreme supremacy, he would have to cut off the supremacy bloodline in his body. Other than that, there was no other way. In these 3 years, the heavenly realm was very peaceful. However, just as Ji Yufei and Yuan Hong finished their discussion, the sky above the demon race's ancestral grounds suddenly darkened and an extremely terrifying aura descended from the sky. Rays of demonic light directly broke through the void and turned into giant pillars that surrounded the entire demon race's ancestral grounds. The sudden change stunned countless demon race experts in the demon race's ancestral grounds. No one expected the demons to attack at this time. The countless demonic pillars that surrounded the demon race's ancestral grounds erupted with endless demonic fire at the same time. The demonic fire burned the void continuously. Demonic refinement of heaven and earth, Ji Yufei, die. With a furious roar, a terrifying demonic shadow descended from the sky. The moment the demonic shadow appeared, a huge demonic formation appeared between heaven and earth. The demonic shadow was located at the formation eye of this super demonic formation. The mighty demonic power of this super demonic formation was directly at the extreme supremacy realm. Rumble, the power of heavenly punishment was directly triggered. The power of destruction surged from the depths of the sky and obliterated everything. However, to everyone's shock, the demonic pillars actually held up a huge demonic diagram and blocked the power of heavenly punishment. Preposterous. The old tortoise immediately activated the protective formation of the demon race's ancestral grounds. However, to the old tortoise's disbelief, the protective formation of the demon race's ancestral grounds could not withstand the power of the super demonic formation. Countless ancient demon race Dao patterns dissipated in the void and the protective formation of the demon race's ancestral grounds directly collapsed. Damn it! The old tortoise directly took out the Tai sovereign seal. Boom! A huge seal appeared in the sky above the demon race's ancestral grounds and blocked the destructive power of the demonic formation. Ancestral Demon? Chapter 4370. The primogenitor demons had prepared for 3 years and finally made their move. Their first move was earth-shattering. The primogenitor demons had used some kind of secret technique to set up a super demonic formation. The countless demonic pillars surrounding the demon race's ancestral land were all at the extreme Dao level. That demonic shadow was actually a remnant image of the first demon ancestor. The first demon ancestor was Ji Yufei's greatest enemy. During the battle in the ancestral realm, he had used his life to initiate reincarnation and beat Ji Yufei into reincarnation, reducing Ji Yufei's cultivation. Ji Yufei had nearly died. Even if he did not perish, he had suffered greatly. He had to cultivate anew and recover his strength step by step. Who would have thought that the primogenitor demons would summon a remnant soul of the first demon ancestor to guard this super demonic formation? The first demon ancestor had used his life to initiate reincarnation, but he was deader than dead. This remnant soul could not be considered the first demon ancestor anymore. It was just a manifestation of his undying remnant consciousness. Even an undying remnant consciousness of the first demon ancestor was incomparably terrifying. The moment the demonic shadow appeared, it suppressed the heavens and obliterated the universe, causing the power of the super formation to soar to an unimaginable level. It was as if the entire heavenly realm was about to be refined. If not for the Grand Sovereign Seal, the demon race's ancestral land, which was surrounded by countless demonic pillars, would have long been refined by the super formation. Buzz! The Grand Sovereign Seal vibrated. The super formation's power was so strong that even the Grand Sovereign Seal showed signs of being unable to withstand it. The old tortoise exerted all his strength to activate the Grand Sovereign Seal. However, this could not continue for long. The old tortoise was only a quasi-supremacy. Activating the Grand Sovereign Seal required a large amount of Yuan Qi. Quickly think of a way. The old tortoise shouted at Ji Fei. At this time, his forehead was already covered in a layer of cold sweat. At this moment, countless experts of the demon clan were stunned by this scene. They were extremely terrified, and only a few of them were barely able to hold on. Sigh. Ji Fei shook his head helplessly. The primogenitor demons were really endless. What made Ji Fei the most unhappy was that the various forces in the primogenitor realm were actually watching from the sidelines. Due to Ji Fei's appearance, the major forces in the primogenitor realm stopped hunting the primogenitor demons. They all chose to preserve their strength. In fact, the major forces in the primogenitor realm had already received the news that the primogenitor demons were going to attack Ji Fei. They naturally wanted to see Ji Fei suffer. The best-case scenario would be for Ji Fei and the ancestor demons to fight to the death, and then they would reap the benefits. 3 years ago, when Ji Fei fought the primogenitor realm's supreme king, he had revealed his trump card, which was that he didn't fear heavenly punishment and had slain a paragon king with his sword. Since the primogenitor demons dared to attack, they naturally weren't afraid of Ji Fei. Buzz. Ji Fei pointed his finger and a sword rainbow immediately rushed out from his fingertip. It directly soared into the sky and pierced through the super demonic array's eye. As long as the demonic figure in the super demonic array's eye was destroyed, the array would no longer be a problem. The sword light directly broke through the layers of demonic power. Just as it was about to slash the demonic figure in the super demonic array's eye, the sword light suddenly exploded. Ji Fei couldn't help but frown when he saw this scene. This was an attack that he had unleashed with his eternal power, but it was actually blocked. At this moment, a demonic wheel appeared in the super demonic array's eye and enveloped the demonic figure. This is the legendary world-destroying demonic wheel. In the distant sky, an old man exclaimed in surprise. The primogenitor demon's move this time was too big. All the experts in the heaven realm felt the terrifying demonic aura, especially near the demon clan's ancestral ground. Countless living beings were extremely terrified. The world-destroying demonic wheel was a legendary supreme demonic artifact in the primogenitor realm. It was even more powerful than the heavenly demonic tower. Legend had it that it was refined by a demon lord in the eternal realm. That demon lord in the eternal realm was the world-destroying demon lord. With the appearance of the world-destroying demonic wheel, the power of the entire super demonic array surged again. This time, even the power of heaven's punishment was blocked. A wisp of demonic aura swept down from the world-destroying demonic wheel. The Tai Sovereign seal directly fell from the sky. It was covered in cracks as if it could shatter at any time. They weren't Tao artifacts of the same level. The difference was too big. An eternal Tao artifact could crush an extreme Tao artifact. Whoa! Old Tortoise spat out a mouthful of blood. His face instantly turned as white as paper. He was seriously injured. At the same time, the demonic diagram formed by the super demonic array descended from the sky. Everywhere it passed, everything was obliterated into nothingness. It was extremely terrifying. Seeing this scene, everyone was in despair. Haha, Ji Fei is definitely going to die this time. The experts from the primogenitor realm who were watching the battle from afar were all extremely nervous and excited. These people had some grudges with Ji Fei, and they could not wait for Ji Fei to be killed by the primogenitor demons. It should be known that Ji Fei's reappearance had once again broken the balance of power in the primogenitor realm. Once Ji Fei returned to the primogenitor realm, the entire cultivation structure of the primogenitor realm would be reshuffled. When that time came, many people would die. A sword crosses the heavens, sweep away evil. Ji Fei roared and a ray of sword light immediately rushed out from his body. A terrifying power of the sword way erupted from the ray of sword light. Rumble. As soon as this sword came out, the entire super demonic array immediately shook. Even the world-ending demonic wheel in the sky was vibrating. The two eternal Tao treasures clashed directly. At this time, Old Tortoise used his Shen technique and withdrew the Tai Huang seal. When he saw the cracks on the Tai Huang seal, he almost spat out blood again. The Tai Huang seal was now almost half destroyed. Kill. The demonic shadow in the eye of the super-demonic array roared. Endless power of the demonic way gathered in a frenzy, and the world-ending demonic wheel immediately erupted with unprecedented power. Boom! The world-ending demonic wheel directly blasted down from the sky towards Gu Fei. The monstrous demonic chi directly shattered the world. Kill! Gu Fei roared, and the eternal sword light in the sky immediately rushed towards the world-ending demonic wheel. Boom! The two shocking powers collided in an instant. The next moment, the void in the sky suddenly shattered and was annihilated. A huge black hole appeared between heaven and earth. A sword flew down from the sky, and with a clang, it stabbed in front of Gu Fei. What? Gu Fei was taken aback. He was finally moved. The world-exterminating demonic wheel had actually deflected his 9 heaven stars sword and continued to grind downwards. Haha, Gu Fei, today is the day you die. The demonic shadow roared crazily. Damn it. Hearing this, Gu Fei could not help but be shocked and angry. These guys seemed to be well prepared. Not only did they summon the primogenitor's undying remnant thought, but they also used the eternal Tao treasure, the world-ending demonic wheel. Chapter 4371. During the strongest battle in the primogenitor realm, Gu Fei and the first demon fought to the point where the heavens and earth split apart. In the end, the first demon used his life to initiate reincarnation and beat Gu Fei into reincarnation. Gu Fei's cultivation was nearly stripped away by the power of reincarnation. If it wasn't for the eternal true bone in his chest that could still condense eternal power, he would have been beaten into a mortal. Thanks to the existence of the eternal true bone, Gu Fei was able to cultivate to the quasi-supremacy realm so quickly. However, the first demon that used his life to initiate reincarnation wasn't so lucky. The price he paid to beat Gu Fei into reincarnation was too great. He burned his life and ended up with his soul destroyed. However, the first demon's inextinguishable remnant will remain at the place where he died. This remnant will drifted between heaven and earth, turning the battlefield into a terrifying demonic domain. The primogenitor demons used some kind of secret technique to fuse the remnant will of the first demon with the super-demonic formation. The remnant will of the first demon became the spirit of the super-demonic formation, presiding over the formation and controlling the entire formation. Coupled with the primogenitor demon's supreme demonic weapon, the world-destroying demonic wheel, Gu Fei was in great danger this time. If he wasn't careful, he might really die here. Even the 9 heavenly stars sword was suppressed. This made Gu Fei's heart tremble. However, he didn't despair. So what if the primogenitor demons used the super-demonic formation and the world-destroying demonic wheel? How could it be that easy to kill him? Rumble, the huge demonic diagram formed by the super-demonic formation descended from the sky, turning the void into nothingness. The diagram seemed to be able to destroy everything. What do we do? What do we do? We're dead this time. Countless great demons in the demon race's ancestral ground despaired. Some great demons were eroded by the demonic nature descending from the sky, triggering their inner demons. They suddenly went crazy and attacked anyone they saw. For a moment, the demon race's ancestral ground was in chaos. The old turtle nearly spat out a mouthful of blood when he saw this. Kill! An old voice rang out. In the next moment, a huge hand appeared in the sky, and a powerful devouring force gushed out from it. Those great demons who had gone berserk were sent flying. They were caught by the gigantic hand and turned into a mist of blood, destroyed in body and spirit. This. The old tortoise looked at the person and saw that it was his uncle. The old ancestor of the demon race was pitilessly powerful. No one knew where his cultivation had gone. However, even the old tortoise sometimes felt his heart palpitate in front of his uncle. He was unfathomable. What should we do? Ask Renhuang Jiang for help. Old Tortoise said to Gu Fei. Now, it seemed like Jiang Renhuang was the only one who could save them. However, since the ancestor demons had used the world-destroying demonic wheel, even Jiang Renhuang would not be able to escape unscathed. It's useless. Gu Fei shook his head. The super-demonic array could resist the power of heaven's punishment. This level of power was no ordinary extreme Dao power. No matter how strong Jiang Renhuang was, he was still an extreme Emperor Supreme. If he made a move, it was hard to say who would be killed. Ha ha! Ji Yufei, no one can save you now. Just accept your death. The demonic shadow in the super demonic array laughed crazily. This remnant consciousness only had one thought, and that was to kill Ji Yufei. Now, this remnant consciousness was being used by the ancestor demons. The voice of the ancestor great demon came down from the sky. The remnant consciousness of the ancestor great demon was not even a remnant soul. Naturally, it did not have its own consciousness. However, the divine consciousness of the ancestor great demon had fused with this remnant consciousness. To some extent, this remnant consciousness of the ancestor great demon had become an alternative incarnation of the ancestor great demon. Haha, what a joke. Do you think you can do that? Ji Yufei suddenly laughed. For me. You can still laugh when you're about to die. The ancestor great demon sneered. Who doesn't know when they're about to die? Ji Yufei did not care. Go and die. The primogenitor great demon was enraged. In order to deal with Ji Yufei, he had paid a huge price. This super demonic formation, the world-destroying demonic wheel, and the remnant will of the primogenitor first demon were not things that could be used casually. For today, the ancestor great demon and the other ancestor great demons had sacrificed a lot. However, if they could kill Ji Yufei, then it would all be worth it. Rumble, endless demonic light rushed out from the countless demonic pillars that surrounded the entire demon race's ancestral land. The demonic light obliterated the void and resonated with the demonic diagram that was pressing down from the sky. The entire demon race's ancestral land showed signs of being refined. Countless demon race Dao patterns dissipated under the power of the super demonic array. Damn it! Old Tortoise's heart was bleeding when he saw the guardian arrays collapsing and being obliterated. This was his trump card. Some of the guardian arrays were even personally set up by the Grand Emperor. Once such a guardian array was broken, there was no way to recover. Haha, Ji Yufei, aren't you very awesome? If I want to kill you now, it's just a matter of moving a finger. The ancestor great demon laughed maniacally. Sigh. Ji Yufei smiled bitterly and shook his head. Do you really think you can defeat me? Ji Yufei said. Why? Do you think you can turn the tables? The ancestor great demon's voice was cold and emotionless. Although it was just an incarnation, the ancestor great demon was still incomparably arrogant. At this moment, the world-destroying demonic wheel appeared in the super demonic array, emitting extremely terrifying power fluctuations. The world-destroying demonic wheel was an eternal demon artifact. Even though this incarnation of the ancestor great demon controlled the super demonic array and could use endless demonic Dao power, he didn't dare to use it casually. One had to know that every time an eternal Dao artifact was used, the amount of essence qi consumed was absolutely unimaginable. Especially when the eternal Dao artifact wasn't refined by himself, it required even more essence qi. Even an extreme Dao Supreme wouldn't be able to withstand it. Ah, I know. You still haven't used the All Heavens Myriad World Wheel. The ancestor great demon's incarnation said coldly. There's no need to use the All Heavens Myriad World Wheel. Ji Yufei shook his head. Haha, then just wait for your death. The ancestor great demon's incarnation said as he pressed his right hand towards Ji Yufei. The demonic diagram in the sky immediately descended at a faster speed. Brother, quickly think of a way or we will all die. Old Tortoise was extremely anxious. He didn't want to be wiped out. What other ways does he have? The ancestor great demon was incomparably arrogant. Is that so? Ji Yufei sighed. He didn't want to do this, but from the looks of it, if he didn't do this, he, Old Tortoise, and countless great demons would die here. Page for me. Chapter 4372. Ji Yufei was in a desperate situation. There was no one in the heavenly realm or the human realm who could force Ji Yufei into a desperate situation. When the news of Ji Yufei being in a desperate situation spread, both the heavenly realm and the human realm were in an uproar. Countless experts from the heavenly realm and the human realm rushed to the demon clan's ancestral land. They all wanted to see who was so powerful that they could force Jiu Fei into a desperate situation. However, when the supreme demonic aura spread out, all the experts were shocked to the extreme. It was actually a demon. It was a demon that forced Jiu Fei into a desperate situation. However, wasn't the 100,000 demon mountains destroyed by Old Tortoise? The last demon domain in the heavenly realm had been destroyed. Although there were still demons in the heavenly realm, they were all small fries that couldn't cause much trouble. Soon, the news spread that this time, it was the ancestral demons that attacked Jiu Fei. What were the ancestral demons? They were the demons of the ancestral realm. The demons of the ancestral realm were known as the ancestors of demons and the source of demons. This time, the ancestral demons crossed over and used the super demonic formation to envelop the entire demon clan's ancestral land. They wanted to completely refine Jiu Fei and the entire demon clan's ancestral land and get rid of Jiu Fei and Old Tortoise in one go. Ancestral demons, all the forces in the heavenly realm and the human realm felt the danger. The demons weren't kind. Once Jiu Fei was defeated, wouldn't the ancestral demons' next step be to conquer the heavenly realm and the human realm? If that was the case, then many people would die. In fact, as early as when the experts of the ancestral realm appeared in the heavenly realm, some people said that they wanted to turn the heavenly realm into their hunting ground. The experts of the heavenly realm and the human realm didn't welcome the big shots of the ancestral realm. Almost all the experts of the heavenly realm and the human realm hoped that Jiu Fei could win and defeat the ancestral demons. Rumble, in the demon clan's ancestral land, the super demonic formation was operating crazily. Brother, what are you waiting for? Old Tortoise was extremely anxious. If Jiu Fei still did not make a move, they would be finished. Big brother, Xiaoqing was also very anxious. Jiu Fei, don't say that I didn't give you a chance. Use whatever skills you have. However, in the end, you will still die. Haha. In the sky, in the eye of the super demonic formation, primogenitor Great Fiend laughed maniacally. The day he had been waiting for had finally arrived. The insufferably arrogant Jiu Fei of the past had now become someone whose life and death were in his hands. Sigh. Jiu Fei let out a long sigh and shook his head. He didn't say anything and just sat down cross-legged. The 9 Heaven Stars sword was stabbed into the ground in front of him. He grabbed the 9 Heaven Stars sword and stabbed himself in the chest with a backhand motion. What? When Old Tortoise and the others saw this scene, they were truly shocked. Haha, Jiu Fei, do you want to commit suicide? Primogenitor Great Fiend's incarnation laughed in the sky. Hee hee. Jiu Fei smiled and didn't say anything. This sword directly pierced into his sternum. Then, traces of eternal real blood were absorbed by the 9 Heaven Stars sword. Boom. The next moment, the 9 Heaven Stars sword that had absorbed Jiu Fei's eternal real blood burst out with an unprecedentedly powerful energy wave. It was as if a supreme eternal supreme had awakened. Buzz. The 9 Heaven Stars sword flew up from Jiu Fei's body. Rumble. The entire world shook violently. Endless eternal power erupted from the 9 Heaven Stars sword and directly blocked the demonic diagram that was suppressing down. What? This time, primogenitor Great Fiend's incarnation in the eye of the super demonic formation was stunned. He never expected such a thing to happen. You underestimate an extreme Dao weapon. Jiu Fei said coldly. At this moment, his face was as pale as paper. The 9 Heaven Stars sword had absorbed more than half of the eternal real blood contained in his eternal real bone. His vitality was greatly damaged. This directly caused his cultivation level to decline rapidly. He almost fell from the quasi-supremacy realm. His cultivation level barely stabilized at the beginner quasi-supremacy realm. This time, Jiu Fei had really bled a lot. If he hadn't been at the end of his rope, he wouldn't have come to this step. The eternal real blood was extremely precious to him. It was much more precious than the divine elixir of the undying ancestral dragon. A drop of eternal real blood contained the eternal Dao law. Any extreme supreme would have a great improvement in their cultivation if they obtained it. But now, Jiu Fei had no choice but to use the eternal real blood to completely awaken the 9 Heaven Stars sword. The sword spirit of the 9 heaven stars sword was actually in a deep sleep most of the time. It was impossible for ordinary people to awaken the sword spirit of the 9 heaven stars sword. However, the primogenitor great demon had miscalculated this time. Jiu Fei was once an eternal supreme. The 9 heaven stars sword was a Tao artifact that he had refined his entire life. Others might not be able to awaken the sword spirit of the 9 heaven stars sword, but he could. After absorbing Jiu Fei's eternal real blood, the 9 heaven stars sword unleashed its full power. The eternal sword spirit was completely awakened. This was equivalent to an eternal supreme waking up from a deep sleep. This old tortoise, his uncle, and all the great demons were trembling. This was an existence that surpassed the extreme supreme realm. The moment the 9 heaven stars sword's eternal sword spirit awakened from its deep sleep, the entire heaven realm, and even the entire human realm, was terrified to the extreme. A sword to suppress an entire realm. This was the terror of an eternal Tao artifact. Swoosh! The 9 heaven stars sword attacked on its own. It turned into a dazzling sword light and split the demonic diagram in the sky in half. Clang! The 9 heaven stars sword fiercely collided with the world annihilation demonic wheel. In the next moment, the world annihilation demonic wheel was sent flying by the 9 heaven stars sword. This was the true power of the eternal realm. The current 9 heaven stars sword was unimaginably powerful. The eternal sword light swept across the sky and the earth, dissipating the demonic aura that enveloped the entire world. How is this possible? The incarnation of the primogenitor great demon, who was presiding over the array core, screamed. I already said that you don't have the ability to kill me. Jiu Fei sat cross-legged on the mountain peak. His chest was still oozing blood, and his face was even paler. You, the incarnation of the primogenitor great demon, was shocked and furious. Although the world annihilation demonic wheel was also an eternal realm demon artifact, the primogenitor great demon did not have the ability to awaken the world annihilation demonic wheel. This way, he would be out of luck. Kill him for me. Jiu Fei directly ordered the 9 heaven stars sword. In the next moment, the 9 heaven stars sword let out a sword hum that resounded through the 9 heavens. Then, it soared into the sky and broke through the layers of demonic arrays. With one sword strike, it split the demonic figure presiding over the array core in half. Chapter 4373. The ancestor demons had gone all out in the battle in the ancestral land of the demon clan. They had used almost all their trump cards. The origin of the ancestor demon's super demonic array was not simple. It was a supreme demonic array left by the ancestor of the ancestor demons. It could refine supremes. The ancestor of the ancestor demons was the oldest and most powerful demon in the ancestral realm. He was the first demon born in the ancestral realm and the ancestor of all demons. The ancestor of the ancestor demons had disappeared for countless years, but the supreme demonic weapon he left behind was still passed down generation after generation among the ancestor demons. Even when Jiu Fei had gone on an expedition against the primogenitor demon tribe, they hadn't used this supreme demonic formation. However, their supreme demonic formation had been destroyed by a sword. To be more precise, it was an eternal divine sword. Whoosh! The dazzling eternal sword light streaked across the pitch-black void and made a sound like a sharp blade tearing through cloth. The huge demonic diagram in the sky was directly split in half. Then, countless demonic patterns dissipated and collapsed. The entire super demonic array was collapsing. It was extremely terrifying. In particular, the sword light was so powerful that it directly split the array eye of the super demonic array in half. It also split the incarnation of the ancestor great demon that was guarding the array eye in half. Roar! The moment the 9 heavenly stars sword split the primogenitor great demon's incarnation in half, a furious roar came from a remote primordial forest in the primogenitor realm. In a valley, the demonic aura was vast and mighty. All the trees and flowers within a radius of 10,000 miles withered. In the valley, demonic shadows could be vaguely seen. In the open space in the middle of the valley, there was an ancient altar. On the altar, there were 9 demonic shadows sitting in a lotus position. Each of these 9 demonic shadows was extremely powerful. They were the only 9 ancestor demons left among the ancestor demons. Each of them had experienced hundreds of battles and were demons among demons. Ancient demonic patterns constantly appeared on the ancient altar. Each pattern was emitting the most primitive demonic light. The heaven and earth spiritual chi of the entire world was frantically gathering towards the altar. However, at this moment, a drop of demonic blood seeped out of the forehead of the ancestor great demon who was sitting on the altar and presiding over the array. Countless cracks appeared on his forehead. At the same time, the other 8 devil patriarchs were coughing up mouthfuls of blood from the impact. How is this possible? That's the supreme killing array left behind by the ancestor. Wasn't that guy beaten into reincarnation by the first demon lord and had his extreme grade cultivation destroyed? The 9 progenitor devil races archdevil lord on the sacrificial altar were shocked to the extreme. At this time, the black hole above the sacrificial altar began to shrink. The passage is about to close. I can't accept this. Primogenitor great demon roared into the sky. Blood seeped from the corner of his mouth and his expression was extremely vicious. It turned out that the 9 great demon ancestors of the primogenitor devil race had used the ancient sacrificial altar left behind by the primogenitor devil race to open a path between the primogenitor world and the heavenly world, allowing them to control the super demon formation in the primogenitor world. Just as the black hole in the sky was about to disappear, a sword light descended from the sky and directly cut the ancestor great demon in half. What? Just as the black hole in the sky was about to disappear, a sword light descended from the sky and directly cut the ancestor great demon in half. What? The other ancestor demons were scared out of their wits when they saw this scene. Without any hesitation, the 8 progenitor devil race's ancestors fled the scene. Fortunately, the sword light only killed the ancestor great demon before rushing into the sky. The moment the black hole completely disappeared, it rushed into the sky. What is that? The eternal sword. The 8 ancestor demons were indescribably shocked. Boom. At this moment, there was a loud sound. The black hole in the sky that had originally disappeared reappeared. An item broke through the void and directly rushed into the ancestor's realm. Buzz. The void trembled and a pitch black wheel floated in the void. This item was the world-destroying demonic wheel. This eternal sword returned to the ancestor's realm on its own. This was beyond the expectations of the 8 ancestor demons. At this time, in the ancestor's land of the monster race in the heaven realm, the array core of the superdemonic array was broken and the entire superdemonic array was collapsing. Gu Fei originally wanted to take the world-destroying demonic wheel away, but the eternal sword broke through the void and directly escaped, its whereabouts unknown. What a pity. Gu Fei sighed. That was an eternal sword. If he could obtain it, his cultivation might soar to the sky in one step and directly become an extreme supremacy. At this time, the demonic aura that enveloped the entire sky had completely dissipated, and sunlight shone down from the divine sun in the sky. The countless demonic pillars surrounding the monster race's ancestral land had already become dim. Some of the demonic pillars even had cracks on them. Whoosh. At this time, a sword light broke through the void and slashed down from the sky, directly cutting the countless demonic pillars outside the monster race's ancestral land into 2. Gu Fei opened his mouth and inhaled. The endless demonic aura that erupted from the demonic pillars actually frantically converged towards Gu Fei and was devoured by him. What? Countless great demons in the monster race's ancestral land saw this scene and were all stunned. He is actually devouring the most primordial demonic aura in this world. Old Tortoise's uncle stood on another mountain peak and couldn't help but be shocked when he saw this scene. Gu Fei continuously devoured the surrounding demonic aura. He wanted to recover his exhausted Yuan Qi, but it was not easy to recover the eternal real blood that he had consumed. Rumble. The sound of wind and thunder came from Gu Fei's body. The primordial demonic aura that he devoured was quickly refined by him and turned into his own Yuan Qi. The great demons in the monster race's ancestral land were inexplicably shocked when they sensed that Gu Fei's aura was constantly increasing. This Gu Fei was really powerful. The super-demonic formation's collapse released a huge amount of primordial demonic aura that was even more terrifying than a deadly poison to ordinary people. Even an ordinary quasi-supremacy would be in big trouble if they were contaminated by this demonic aura, let alone Saint Venerables. They would die if they came into contact with it. Gu Fei devoured for a full day and night before he finally devoured all the demonic aura released after the collapse of the super-demonic formation. A divine sword was inserted into the ground in front of Gu Fei. Boom! Gu Fei's body suddenly shook. In the next moment, an extremely tyrannical power immediately erupted from his body. Spatial ripples that were visible to the naked eye appeared in the surrounding void. Only recovered to the mid-level quasi-supremacy, Gu Fei couldn't help but smile bitterly when he sensed the power in his body. In fact, it wasn't easy for his cultivation to recover to the mid-level quasi-supremacy. He directly stood up from the ground and waved his right hand. The ninth heaven star's sword that was inserted into the ground immediately flew up and disappeared into his big sleeve. The catastrophe of the monster race's ancestral land was resolved by Gu Fei. At this moment, the great demons in the monster race's ancestral land felt as though they had escaped from a great disaster. Gu Fei actually didn't die. In a secret place in the heaven realm, a group of people was very disappointed when they received the news of the ancestor demons' defeat. They thought that Gu Fei wouldn't be able to escape this time. Who would have thought that Gu Fei was simply an undying cockroach? Even the ancestor demons, with such great power, couldn't kill him. The experts in the heaven realm and the human realm didn't know that the ninth heaven star's sword had actually killed the ancestor great demon of the ancestral realm. That was the ancestor of the extreme Tao realm ancestor demons, but his body and soul were destroyed just like that. Go contact those people and see if there's a chance to kill Gu Fei while he's weak. An old man gritted his teeth and said. They had great enmity with Gu Fei and couldn't wait to tear Gu Fei's body into 1,000 pieces. All right. A middle-aged expert accepted the order and immediately left. When the true body of the primordial great emperor descends, both Gu Fei and the old tortoise will die. The old man said hatefully. The remnants of the primordial era were ready to make trouble, and the figure of the heavenly demon descendant appeared again. There was also the Buddhist sect. There were many grievances between the monster race and the Buddhist sect. The Buddhist sect had subdued many great demons and conferred them as demon gods for them to order around. In the past, the incarnation of the ancient Buddha Lord had entered the heaven realm and then disappeared without a trace. However, the Western Desert Buddhist sect of the heavenly realm had reappeared in the recent hundreds of years. The vanished ancient temples and Buddhist domain had reappeared. Everyone knew that the Western Desert Buddhist sect was not to be trifled with. Even when the great figures of the ancestral realm were sweeping through the heaven realm, they also encountered a tough opponent in the Western Desert. Some of the ancestral realm's experts had even fallen in the Western Desert. Some people saw Great Monk Heavenly Dharma appear in the Western Desert, and the Little Monk Fan Show also appeared in the Shaolin Ancient Temple. They seemed to be looking for something. Even the incarnation of the ancient Buddha Lord, who had disappeared for a long time, appeared in the Western Desert. Wherever he went, countless Buddhist great virtues submitted. The old tortoise and the Little Monk Fan Show were archenemies. When the old tortoise learned that the Little Monk Fan Show had appeared in the Western Desert, he immediately left the monster race's ancestral land and headed for the Western Desert. Gu Fei also followed. He was very interested in the Western Desert. What interested him the most were the supreme Buddhist artifacts of the ancient Buddha Lord. The ancient Buddha Lord had refined many supreme Buddhist artifacts in his life. He was one of the few existences that had refined so many supreme Buddhist artifacts. That year, the incarnation of the ancient Buddha Lord had taken 3 supreme Buddhist artifacts from Gu Fei. Today, he wanted to meet the incarnation of the ancient Buddha Lord again. This is the Shaolin Ancient Temple. The old tortoise and Gu Fei arrived at the Western Desert of the heavenly realm at the same time and appeared in front of the Shaolin Ancient Temple. The ancient temple gave off an extremely ancient and vicissitude feeling, as if it had existed since the beginning of time. Even the merciless years could not erase this ancient temple. Just as the old tortoise was about to force his way in, the closed door of the Shaolin Ancient Temple suddenly opened and a little monk with white teeth and red lips walked out. The little monk came before Old Tortoise and handed a jade slip to Old Tortoise. What the hell? Chapter 4374. Gu Fei and the Old Tortoise were people who could not stay still. After breaking the ancestor demon's superformation, the heavenly realm and the human realm finally calmed down. Of course, this was only relatively peaceful. Both the heavenly realm and the human realm were surging. Some experts who had not appeared for a long time began to appear. Heavenly Monk Fa, Little Baldy Fan Xiu, all appeared in the heavenly realm. The Western Desert was originally a bitter cold place in the heavenly realm. Most cultivators were unwilling to cultivate here because the spiritual energy of heaven and earth here was much thinner than other regions. Moreover, there were no spiritual lands or divine lands here. Even if there were, they were very rare. However, it was unknown when the Western Desert of the heavenly realm became the territory of the Buddhists. The Buddhists transformed this place into a Buddhist land. To be able to change the world and turn a bitter cold place into a paradise, this was not something an ordinary person could do. However, the Buddhists did it. Of course, the price they had to pay in order to change a region and turn it into a land of Buddhism was unimaginable. The Western Desert, Shilin Temple. It was not the strongest Buddhist force in the Western Desert, but the little monk Fan Xiu had appeared here. Gu Fei and the Old Tortoise naturally came to the Western Desert to stop the little monk Fan Xiu. This guy was too despicable. He had played dirty tricks and ruined the plans of Gu Fei and the Old Tortoise. This time, they must let the little Baldy know how powerful they were. Gu Fei and the Old Tortoise did not actually want to kill the little monk Fan Xiu. They just wanted to teach him a lesson. Boom! A loud noise broke the silence of the Shilin Temple. The heavy door of the Shilin ancient temple directly turned into countless fragments and shot into the temple. An extremely violent power spread out and the surrounding trees were uprooted. Who dares to break into my Shilin temple? An old voice resounded. Then, a huge golden hand slapped out from the main hall of the Shilin temple and blocked all the fragments. Hee, I didn't expect a real dragon to appear in this place. A loud laugh rang out from outside the door. Then, two figures directly strode in from outside the door. You are, in the main hall, the voice was heard again. If I don't even know him, how can you survive in the heaven realm? A tall and formidable-looking middle-aged man walked in. This guy was Old Tortoise. His aura was really good. As he stood in the courtyard, his domineering aura leaked out. He was simply the reincarnation of an overlord. I was wondering who it was. So it's the demon lord. After that, an old monk in a kasaya walked out of the hall. Your big bald face is very unfamiliar. Old Tortoise was a little surprised to see the old monk. He was the leader of the demon race in the heaven realm. He knew all the powers in the heaven realm like the back of his hand. The Western Desert Buddhist sect was one of his main targets. The Shilin Ancient Temple was only one of the three major forces of the Western Desert Buddhism sect. The lord of the Shilin Ancient Temple was not the old monk in front of him. I've been in seclusion for a long time. When I wake up, the world has changed. My old friends are no longer around, so naturally, no one knows of my existence. The old monk said indifferently. So it's another old monster. Old Tortoise sighed. In this world, all kinds of demons and ghosts would jump out. Your Buddhist power is vast and unfathomable. Are you the disciple of the ancient Buddhist lord? Gu Fei walked out from behind Old Tortoise and probed. The disciple of the ancient Buddhist lord? The Old Tortoise couldn't help but be startled. The ancient Buddhist lord was very famous. He was the progenitor of Buddhism and created the cultivation system of Buddhism. The ancient Buddhist lord's achievements were no less than the supreme Tao ancestors. Both of them created a cultivation system that allowed humans to become experts through the cultivation physique they created. It could be said that the ancient Buddhist lord and the supreme Tao ancestor changed the entire human race, even the entire world. Not only the heaven realm, the human realm, but even other great realms. This was because, regardless of whether it was the Buddhist cultivation system or the Daoist cultivation system of the immortal Tao, humans were not the only ones who could cultivate. Other races could cultivate as well. In the Western Desert Buddhism, There was a Buddhist force that was completely formed by the ancient Buddhist lord. The leader of this force was a 9-headed golden condor. Legend had it that the 9-headed golden condor had listened to the ancient Buddhist lord's scriptures for many years. He had obtained the true teachings of Buddhism and became one of the 3 great Buddhist lords of the Western Desert Buddhism. Who are you? The old monk did not deny it. Haha, you don't even know him. Then you don't need to stay in the heaven realm. Old Tortoise laughed. In the heaven realm, especially at this time, who didn't know Jiu Fei? Even those mortals who didn't cultivate had heard of Jiu Fei's name. Fellow Daoist. I really don't know him. Please enlighten me, Demon Lord. The old monk said with an expressionless face. This is, at that moment, a group of bald men of all sizes rushed out of the hall. Leading them was a monk who was taller and stronger than Old Tortoise. He was covered in muscles from head to toe. This glaring Vajra was the highest authority of the Shaolin ancient temple, the Shaolin Buddhist lord. No one would have thought that this Shaolin Buddhist lord was a big guy. Jiu Fei. The moment the Shaolin Buddhist lord saw Jiu Fei, he almost exclaimed, is he that Jiu Fei? The old monk still looked calm. The group of Buddhist experts behind him almost fainted when they heard the old monk's words. This old ancestor could still be so calm when facing such a ruthless person. It should be known that Jiu Fei was a peerless villain in the heaven realm. Not only had he destroyed the Forbidden Zone and killed the Demon Lord, but he had also defeated the invading Extreme Mysterious Realm Lord and chased those fellows back to the Extreme Mysterious Realm. Now that he had defeated the primogenitor demons, he was in the limelight. Fellow Daoist Jiu, what are you doing here? The Shaolin Buddhist lord forced himself to calm down. Nothing much. We heard that a friend of ours appeared here, so we came to take a look. Jiu Fei shrugged. What? We have a friend here. The Shaolin Buddhist lord was stunned and surprised. Where is Fan Xiu? Ask him to come out and see me. Old Tortoise was getting impatient. Lord Demon, we don't have anyone called Fan Xiu here. The Shaolin Buddhist lord said with a solemn expression. It was impossible for him not to be nervous when Old Tortoise and Jiu Fei arrived at the same time. These 2 fellows were famous villains in the heaven realm. They were peerless and powerful. It was already difficult for the Shaolin ancient temple to deal with one of them. If these 2 fellows joined forces, the Shaolin ancient temple would not be a match for them. Is that so? Old Tortoise threw the jade slip in his hand to the Shaolin Buddhist lord. Chapter 4375. Old Tortoise, you bastard, you want to catch me? Eat **T. There was only one sentence in the jade slip. At this time, Shaolin Buddhist lord, who was holding the jade slip in his hand, had an extremely ugly expression. This little monk Fan Xiu was really hateful. He was trying to kill them. Just now, a little monk handed this thing to me. Old Tortoise crossed his arms and looked coldly at Shaolin Buddhist lord. What? This is impossible. Shaolin Buddhist lord was hopping mad. He was not going to take the blame. All right, hand over Fan Xiu. Jiu Fei stood with his hands behind his back and said indifferently, we really don't have this person here. An elder of Shaolin ancient temple said quickly, Fan Xiu is not from our Shaolin temple. Another Buddhist elder chimed in. Facing Jiu Fei and Old Tortoise, only the personal disciple of the Millennium Buddhist Lord could still remain calm. The other higher-ups of Shaolin ancient temple could not calm down. Even they, who had trained to remain calm even if an ancient sacred mountain collapsed in front of them, could not do it. I want to search. Old Tortoise said loudly. At this time, his divine sense had already covered the entire area. As soon as Fan Xiu appeared, he would be able to sense his position immediately. Demon Lord, do you think this is your Demon Lord's ancestral land? You think you can search whenever you want? Shaolin Buddhist Lord said in a deep voice. That's right, this is Shaolin Temple. The higher-ups of Shaolin Ancient Temple behind Shaolin Buddhist Lord were furious. If Old Tortoise searched Shaolin Temple, what would the people of the outside world think of Shaolin Temple? The world would think that Shaolin Temple was afraid of the Demon Lord. Demon Lord, Fan Xiu has already left. You guys should leave. At this time, the old monk who had been silent suddenly said. Naturally, no one dared to underestimate the personal disciple of the Millennium Buddhist Lord. One should know that the Millennium Buddhist Lord was one of the strongest supremes of the human race since ancient times. Naturally, his disciple would not be weak. The old monk did not reveal himself, but Old Tortoise and Jiyu Fei knew that the strongest existence in the entire Shaolin ancient temple was this old monk. We naturally believe the words of the eternal Buddha Master's successor. However, if you want us to leave just like this, that won't do, said the Old Tortoise with a laugh. Then what do you want? Buddha Lord Shaolin stared at Old Turtle and said nervously. So much nonsense. Old Turtle was impatient. He reached out with his right hand and grabbed at Shaolin. Buddhist Lord Shaolin formed a seal with both hands and pressed it forward. Bam! The two forces collided with each other, producing a muffled sound. Buddha Lord Shaolin only felt a powerful force coming from his opponent's hand. In the next moment, he couldn't help but take 2 steps back, leaving 2 deep footprints on the ground. On the other hand, Old Tortoise was as still as a mountain. The higher-ups of the Shaolin ancient temple were all dumbfounded. This was their Lord Buddha, yet he was forced to retreat as soon as he made a move. It wasn't that the higher-ups of the Shaolin ancient temple had never heard of Old Tortoise's infamy, but they had never imagined that the Heaven Realm's demon lord was actually this strong. The descendants of the Supreme Emperor are indeed powerful. Just as Old Tortoise was about to attack again, a figure flashed in front of him and appeared in front of him. Ha ha! Just in time. The Old Tortoise laughed and grabbed the man with his right hand. His palm instantly turned into the ancestral dragon's claw. Wherever the claw passed, cracks appeared in the void. The person in front of Old Turtle was the disciple of the Millennium Buddha. The void trembled and Old Monk's right hand turned golden. He pinched his 5 fingers and triggered the Buddha's power. The void trembled and the Buddha's seal was condensed. Boom! Old Turtle's ancestral dragon's claw collided with Old Monk's seal. A powerful shockwave spread out, causing the surrounding people to stagger. Only Buddha Lord Shaolin was barely able to use his Buddha light to protect his body and retreat. The Buddhist hall behind the old monk began to shake. Countless Buddha's inscriptions appeared on the temple, blocking the mighty force. Old Turtle was a little surprised. This temple was not simple. Old Turtle did not take a step back, and neither did Old Monk. The Buddha's seal resisted the ancestral dragon's claw. The two powerhouses were actually competing in essence chi. This was an extremely dangerous battle. As long as one side was weak, they would be killed. Haha, good. That's how it should be. Old Turtle laughed. This guy dared to compete with him in essence chi. He did not know how to write the word death. But soon, Old Turtle was speechless. He felt that Buddha's power was extremely vast. Not only did it block his demonic power, but it also seemed endless, which surprised him. I say, Old Turtle, you've met your match this time. Jiyu Fei was happy. How could he not know what Old Turtle was thinking? The direct disciple of the Millennium Buddha Sovereign. The Old Turtle naturally wanted to have a fight with him. If he defeated the direct disciple of the Millennium Buddha Sovereign, wouldn't it mean that the descendants of the Taihuang Emperor were stronger than the descendants of the Buddhist Sovereign? Rumble, sounds of wind and thunder came from Old Turtle's body. His demonic power was activated to the extreme, and lines of demons' inscriptions appeared on his body. In the next moment, a different kind of aura of the Great Path came out of his body. His power suddenly increased, and the surrounding void was constantly shaking. This guy, Jiyu Fei, was shocked. He did not expect Old Turtle to use his bloodline power so quickly. This bloodline power was Old Turtle's trump card. Sure enough, once the bloodline power was used, the old monk could not withstand it anymore. His body began to shake. Roar. At this moment, Old Turtle suddenly roared. A golden light suddenly emerged from between his eyebrows. In the next moment, a vast Buddha's power exploded from between his eyebrows. This Buddha's power was extremely pure, without a trace of impurity. Since ancient times, there was only one person who could have such pure Buddha's power, and that was the Millennium Buddha. Good Lord, Jiyu Fei sensed this Buddha's power and knew that Old Turtle had also used his trump card. That is, Old Turtle's heart trembled. He thought that once the bloodline power was used, he could defeat the personal disciple of the Millennium Buddha. Now, it was a tie again. Then let me see how strong your Buddha's power is. Old Turtle gritted his teeth and directly guided the Buddha's power to erase his bloodline power. He wanted to use the opponent's Buddha's power to cut off his own bloodline. Whoa! Buddha's power entered his body, and he directly spat out a mouthful of blood. Is this guy crazy? Ji Fei could not help but be moved. Using Buddha's power to erase the bloodline power was a good idea, but whether it would succeed or not was another matter. Chapter 4376. Ji Fei and Old Tortoise arrived at the Western Desert and went straight to the Shilin Ancient Temple. However, little monk Fan Xiu seemed to have expected their arrival. He actually provoked Old Tortoise, which could be considered as a show of strength to Old Tortoise. However, to Ji Fei and Old Tortoise's surprise, an old monk appeared in the Shilin Ancient Temple. This old monk turned out to be the personal disciple of the legendary Millennium Buddha. The personal disciple of the ancient Buddha Lord. Such a status could be said to be unparalleled in the Buddhist sect. One must know that the ancient Buddha Lord had disappeared. In the Buddhist sect, apart from the ancient Buddhist Lord, his personal disciple's seniority was naturally the highest. Although he did not find little monk Fan Xiu, Old Tortoise would not leave so easily. He directly confronted the successor of the Millennium Buddha. Rumble, Buddhist power and demonic power collided. The old monk formed a Buddhist seal and resisted Old Tortoise's ancestral dragon claw. The invisible power that emanated from both of them made the hearts of the higher-ups of the Shilin Ancient Temple palpitate. Whoa! Old Tortoise suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood, which shocked Ji Fei. The next moment, he knew why Old Tortoise had spat out blood. This guy was too crazy. He was actually guiding Old Tortoise's Buddhist power to erase his bloodline. Using such an extreme method to cut off his bloodline, he would be seriously injured by his opponent if he was not careful. His body and soul might even be destroyed by his opponent. You're crazy. Ji Fei transmitted his voice to Old Tortoise. Hihi, I'm not crazy. I'm very clear-headed. Old Tortoise smiled and transmitted his voice to Ji Fei. At this moment, the old monk was shocked. Was this guy really courting death? Did he actually give up resisting? The golden light that emerged from between the old monk's eyebrows emitted an incomparably bright golden light. Powerful Buddhist power continuously surged from the golden light. Soon, the old monk's body shook. The next moment, he felt a sudden burst of tyrannical demonic power from Old Tortoise's body. This demonic power was fundamentally different from Old Tortoise's. The old monk desperately channeled Buddhist power and finally blocked the tyrannical power that erupted from Old Tortoise's body. Bloodline power? The old monk was the personal disciple of the ancient Buddhist Lord, so his knowledge was naturally extraordinary. He immediately knew what the Old Tortoise was doing. However, so what if he knew? At this moment, the old monk was stuck between a rock and a hard place. The only thing he could do was to use his Buddhist powers to continuously erase the power that was bursting forth from the other party's body. Soon enough, the Old Tortoise's body trembled, and fine cracks appeared on the ancestral dragon's claw on his right hand. Old Tortoise began to cough up blood. Sigh. Ji Fei sighed. In the end, Old Tortoise still failed. Although the personal disciple of the Millennium Buddha Lord was powerful, it was impossible for him to destroy Old Tortoise's bloodline power. Ji Fei knew that if he didn't make a move, Old Tortoise would be killed by the personal disciple of the Millennium Buddhist Lord. Even if he could survive, he would be heavily injured. Without any hesitation, he threw out a punch. Boom! After a muffled rumble, a violent power exploded between the three. Old Tortoise and the old monk retreated at the same time. Only Ji Fei did not move. Old Tortoise stumbled a few steps and spat out another mouthful of blood. His body was full of monster energy, and Buddhist powers were being forced out of his right hand. After the personal disciple steadied himself, golden Buddhist blood seeped out of the corner of his mouth. This shocked the Buddhist Lord of Shilin and the others. The strength of this old ancestor was undeniably strong. Furthermore, He had cultivated the Buddhist body sanctification technique. Out of the 12 students of the ancient Buddhist Lord, only one of them practiced the Buddhist holy body technique. That person was Buddha Ranbei. This Buddha son Ranbei's cultivation had already surpassed the saint realm. He successfully took that step and became a quasi-supreme being. His Buddha body was extremely strong. Okay. Buddha Ranbei's body shook. In the next second, his entire body turned gold. Many ancient Buddhist symbols appeared on his golden skin. This is, Gu Fei and Old Tortoise were taken aback. They could not help but be moved by the invisible pressure emanating from the other party's body. Was this the legendary Buddhist indestructible Vajra body? This was the strongest Buddha body. It could fight against the demon's indestructible sky demon body. Now, Ranbei's entire body was like a powerful Buddha weapon. Every move he made was filled with power. He was extremely strong. He bent his legs slightly, and the next moment, he pushed himself up with force. Immediately, like an arrow released from a bow, he charged directly at Old Tortoise opposite him. Like a gold rainbow breaking through space, Buddha Ranbei slapped towards Old Tortoise. Old Tortoise sneered and clenched his right hand into a fist. Then, he threw a punch at his opponent's golden palm. Bam! The fist and the palm collided in an instant, producing a dull thunder-like sound. Old Tortoise only felt a huge force coming from his opponent's hand, and he could not help but take 4 or 5 steps back, leaving deep footprints on the ground with each step. You borrowed the power of the ancient Buddha? Old Tortoise was shocked. The golden light between his opponent's eyebrows was bursting with Buddha power. Such a powerful Buddha power did not belong to the direct student of the ancient Buddha. I heard that when the ancient Buddha became an extreme leader, he was reborn and left behind 9 relics. Gu Fei suddenly thought of something and said, "Huh." Buddha Ranbei heard this and was shocked. "You know quite a bit." "I see." Only then did Old Tortoise realize that the ball of Buddhist light between the big baldy's eyebrows was transformed from a Buddhist relic of the ancient Buddhist Lord. When the ancient Buddha became an extreme leader, he was reborn and left behind 9 relics that contained an infinite amount of Buddha power. Each relic's power was between a quasi-supreme and an extreme leader. When all 9 were gathered, they could unleash an attack from the ancient Buddha. It was obvious that Buddha son Ranbei had only obtained a Sariya. Even so, the relic's power had increased the Buddha body's strength to a level that could make a normal quasi-supreme being feel hopeless. However, Old Tortoise was not to be trifled with. When Buddha Ranbei threw another punch, Old Tortoise reached out his right hand and grabbed Buddha Ranbei's fist. In the next second, an extremely powerful force exploded from his body. Old Tortoise's blood power exploded. His wounds healed at a speed that was visible to the naked eye. His monster body became stronger. Chapter 4377. The ancestor of the Shilin ancient temple was Ranbei. Ranbei had been in seclusion for a long time and had only recently come out. With the help of the Buddha's relic, Ranbei had successfully broken through to the level of quasi-supreme. He had taken a very important step. Furthermore, he had the Sariya of the ancient Buddha Lord to nourish his Buddha body, and he had even cultivated the Vajra unbreakable Buddha body that no one had ever cultivated other than the ancient Buddha Lord. The indestructible diamond Buddha body was extremely strong. Right now, Ranbei was like a humanoid Buddha weapon. Even if a quasi-supreme Tao weapon hit him, it wouldn't be able to scratch his skin. Boom boom boom. When Buddha Ranbei moved through space, the space was filled with thunder. He tried to throw a punch, but Old Turtle caught it. Boom. A shocking power erupted from the old turtle's body. A faint and illusory figure appeared from his body. As soon as the figure appeared, all living things in the Western Desert could sense its existence. That is, the king's power. Some of the old-timers from the Buddhist schools were alarmed. All of a sudden, all the Buddhist elites in Western Desert looked over at the Shilin ancient temple. All over Western Desert, golden Buddha lights shot into the sky and disappeared. Some Buddhist elites heard the news and hurried over to the Shilin ancient temple. Haha, that turtle egg and Ranbei are fighting. In a small town 10,000 miles away from the Shilin ancient temple, A little monk dressed in white who was sitting at a tea stall on the street suddenly laughed. The little monk had white teeth and red lips. He was handsome and had a bright smile. He looked harmless. No one could have imagined that this seemingly young monk was actually the unconventional little monk of the Buddhist League who had given the old tortoise and Mahakala such a headache. Tem. Where do we go next? Little monk Fan Shou said quietly. Western Desert was the land of Buddhism. Everywhere, people believed in Buddhism. This small town was no exception. The owner of the tea stall was giving free tea to the monks. Little master, aren't you going to Thousand Buddha Mountain? The owner of the tea stall heard little monk Fan Shou and laughed. Thousand Buddha Mountain? That's right, boss, your words really woke me up. Thank you, boss. Little monk Fan Shou stood up and clasped his hands at the tea stall owner. Then, he turned around and left. Myriad Buddha Mountain was a divine mountain in the central region of the Western Desert. Originally, there had never been such a divine mountain in the Western Desert. It had been moved here from another place by an almighty Buddhist cultivator. Because there were tens of thousands of Buddha statues on the mountain, it was called Thousand Buddha Mountain. Myriad Buddha Mountain was the holy land in the hearts of countless Western Desert Buddhist disciples. Every year, the 21st day of the third month was the day of pilgrimage in the Western Desert. On this day, countless Buddhist disciples would come to the Myriad Buddha Mountain to make a pilgrimage. According to the legends, the Myriad Buddha Mountain had descended from the heavens on that very day, crushing down onto the lands of the Western Desert. After that, shocking transformations began to appear in the bitter cold land. Myriad Buddha Mountain was considered by countless Buddhist disciples to be the origin of Buddhism in the Western Desert, and even the heavenly realm. No one knew what little monk Fan Shou was looking for. Just then, in the empty space in front of the Western Forest Temple, Old Turtle and Ran Bei were fighting. The two of them were moving extremely fast. They weren't using any techniques. They were just using the pure power of their Buddha bodies and their monster bodies to fight in close combat. This kind of fight was the most dangerous. If one showed a weakness, they would be torn to shreds. Old Turtle's monster body was very strong, but his opponent's diamond indestructible Buddha body was also very strong. Boom! Bam! Old Turtle and Ran Bei kept fighting. The shadow on Old Turtle's body was becoming clearer and clearer. His blood meridians were exploding. The illusory figure was terrifying, and the power it released almost surpassed the extreme grade realm. However, there seemed to be an invisible shackle restraining the illusory figure, preventing it from breaking through to the extreme grade realm. That was not the power of God's punishment. It was the power of blood meridians. It could not break through to the extreme realm. Just like how Old Turtle could not cut off his father's Tai Huang bloodline, he could not become an extreme paragon. At this moment, there seemed to be a Buddha sitting within the Buddha light on Ran Bei's forehead. He didn't know if Ran Bei was controlling the Buddha's relic, or if it was the Buddha's relic that was controlling Ran Bei. But one thing was for sure. This guy's fighting power had been boosted to the max by the relic. Although the Western Forest Temple was protected by the power of the Buddha, wherever these two elites went, they destroyed everything. Boom! After a loud noise, the two elites broke through the wall and fought outside. Tai Huang seal. Old Turtle roared and formed a seal with both hands. Boom! An infinite amount of heaven and earth spirit gathered. A giant seal appeared in space and headed for Ran Bei. The monster power was extremely strong and strong. Ran Bei's body trembled. Ran Bei's body trembled. Old Turtle was getting serious. This was not the real Tai Huang seal. It was just Old Turtle's seal. Its power was not as strong as the real Tai Huang seal, but it was not to be underestimated. Holy Buddha Eye! Ran Bei's eyebrows shook. A Buddha light came out of his eyebrows and went to meet the big stamp that was coming down. Boom! The Buddhist light and the print collided. In the next moment, a destructive storm swept out in all directions. Everywhere it passed, the void collapsed. BZZZ. The void trembled and a huge light barrier appeared, enveloping the entire Shaolin ancient temple. Shilin Buddha leader activated the Western Forest Temple's protection array. Under the impact of the destructive storm, The protective formation of the Shalin ancient temple shook violently. Countless Buddhist runes appeared on the light shield and interweaved into many Buddhist diagrams. Many Buddha statues appeared on the light shield. It was as if the ancient Buddha had descended and released an infinite amount of Buddha power. This, Shalin Buddhist Lord was baffled. A battle of this level could actually shake the Shalin ancient temple's protective array. It should be known that ever since the Shalin ancient temple's protective array was set up, no more than 3 people could shake it. But now, there were actually 2 people who could shake the guardian array. Shilin Buddha leader was very worried because Old Turtle and Ranbei were too strong. If either one of them wanted to kill him, they could do it without much effort. Quasi-supreme beings were not invincible. What do we do? If the ancestor loses, then our trip to Thousand Buddha Mountain will be for nothing. The higher-ups of the Western Forest Temple were very nervous. We have to go to Thousand Buddha Mountain. Shilin Buddha leader gritted his teeth. Chapter 4378. The Western Desert in the Heavenly Realm was the territory of Buddhism. The myriad Buddha mountain in the Western Desert was like the spiritual mountain in the Buddhist kingdom of the West in the human realm. It was a supreme holy land in the hearts of Buddhist disciples in the heavenly realm. There was a sect on the myriad Buddha mountain. This sect was one of the 3 major Buddhist sects in the Western Desert, the myriad Buddha sect. The myriad Buddha sect was the #1 Buddhist sect in the Western Desert. According to legend, the ancient Buddhist Lord preached on the myriad Buddha mountain and passed down his Buddhist heritage. He didn't establish a sect. However, the person who listened to the ancient Buddhist lords preaching on the myriad Buddha mountain established the #1 Buddhist sect in the Western Desert, the myriad Buddha sect. Later on, the Shalin ancient temple and the foreign Buddhist cultivators rose. The foreign Buddhist cultivators established the Blessed Buddha Temple, the #2 Buddhist sect in the Western Desert. The Shalin ancient temple was the weakest among the 3 major Buddhist sects in the Western Desert. However, even the weakest Shalin ancient temple had experts overseeing it. There was even monk Ranbei, the direct disciple of the ancient Buddhist Lord. At this moment, the Old Turtle and monk Ranbei fought in the sky and entered the starry sky. Boom! After entering the starry sky, the 2 experts didn't have any scruples and unleashed their full power. All the stars in the starry sky shook and the nearby stars directly exploded. Swish! Buddhist lights kept rushing out from Ranbei's glabella, tearing the void and piercing towards the Old Turtle. The terrifying destructive power seemed to be able to destroy everything. Buzz! The old tortoise's body shook, and a tortoise shell immediately emerged from his body to block the piercing Buddhist light. This turtle shell was very extraordinary. Back in the virtual sky world in the human realm, the Old Turtle was trapped in an absolute formation. Thanks to this turtle shell, he didn't die. Even after obtaining the Tai Huang seal, he didn't give up on refining this Tao tool. Ever since he had become a quasi-supreme being, he had directly refined this tortoise shell into his natal Tao artifact. The defensive power of this Tao artifact was definitely one of the best among the quasi-supreme Tao artifacts. It can actually block my Buddhist lights. Monk Ranbei was shocked. The Buddhist lights were his trump card, and this was the first time he used it after coming out of seclusion. However, he didn't expect the Grand Emperor's son to be so powerful. He was able to block his Surya Buddhist light without using the Grand Emperor's seal. What monk Ranbei didn't know was that the Grand Sovereign seal was severely damaged when the primogenitor demons attacked the monster race's ancestral land. It couldn't be repaired in a short period of time. One had to know that the Grand Sovereign seal was a supreme killing weapon refined by the Grand Sovereign. One strike was enough to destroy heaven and earth. The higher the grade of a Tao treasure, the harder it was to repair after it was damaged. Of course, the Grand Sovereign seal was not an ordinary Tao treasure. It was a Tao treasure with a spirit and could repair itself slowly. To a certain extent, an extreme Tao treasure was also a kind of life. It was just like how a person could slowly recover after being injured. It was the same for an extreme Tao treasure. It could also slowly recover on its own. However, the recovery speed of a supreme Tao artifact was very slow. However, in order to repair a supreme Tao weapon, Only a supreme existence of the supreme Tao level could do it. Therefore, neither the old tortoise nor Jiyu Fei could repair the Grand Sovereign Seal. Since the Grand Sovereign Seal was damaged, it naturally couldn't be used. Fortunately, the old tortoise didn't lack Tao treasures. This tortoise shell was one of them. Not only did the tortoise shell have shocking defensive capabilities, but it also had shocking offensive capabilities. After the tortoise shell blocked Ranbei's Surya Buddha light, it instantly turned into a black tortoise and charged towards Ranbei. The legendary black tortoise armor? Ranbei had lived for countless years and was naturally knowledgeable. However, he could quickly tell that this black tortoise armor wasn't the one in the legends. Boom! Seeing the black tortoise pouncing towards him, Ranbei naturally didn't dare to be slow. He immediately formed a Buddhist seal with both hands and pressed forward. The Buddhist seal and the black tortoise's projection instantly collided. In the next moment, Ranbei's feet left the ground and he was sent flying. The Buddhist seal dissipated and the black tortoise's projection also dissipated in the void. The creator of this Buddhist mystique was naturally the ancient Buddha Lord. Back then, the ancient Buddha Lord's Buddhist seal was used to subdue demons and demons. Countless experts submitted to him. Ranbei was the first generation of Arhat and had received the teachings of the ancient Buddha Lord. However, Ranbei's cultivation had reached its limit. Cultivating the ancient Buddha Lord's technique wouldn't allow him to become an honorable. He could only become an honorable by comprehending his own Tao. From the perspective of Buddhism, all living beings could become Buddhas. However, the only one who truly became a Buddha was probably the ancient Buddha Lord. Daoist friend, do we have any enmity between us? Ranbei suddenly asked. No. Old Tortoise replied. Since there's no enmity between us, why should we fight to the death? Ranbei continued. He turned into a Buddhist light and moved quickly in the void. He didn't attack again. You don't want to fight anymore? Old Tortoise stepped on the void. Every step he took brought him 10,000 miles away. Even so, he couldn't catch up to Ranbei. The Buddhist cultivation method is indeed unique. Jiyu Fei couldn't help but nod when he saw this. There's no enmity between us. There's no point in fighting to the death. Ranbei placed his palms together. If you want to fight, then let's fight. Why are you wasting so much time talking? Old Tortoise spoke as he attacked. A giant black tortoise emerged from his body and leaped towards Ranbei. The power of the black tortoise's leap was shocking and shook the sky. This was Old Tortoise's life Tao item. Its power was not to be underestimated. However, Ranbei did not continue. He was like a Buddhist light. Though he was everywhere, he was untraceable. It was as if everything was an illusion. Old Tortoise's attack was strong, but he felt as if his attack was hitting nothing but air. There was no point in using his attack. Chimempate. The ancient Buddha's air is only SOSO. Old Tortoise stopped chasing. He didn't really want to fight to the death. To know that this was the ancient Buddha's air. Who knew what powerful Tao item or technique this guy had? Let's go. Jiyu Fei messaged Old Tortoise. Old Tortoise looked at Ranbei and flew towards Jiyu Fei. The two of them flew down from the sky. Little monk Fan Xiu was not at the West Forest Temple, but he was definitely in the West Desert. Old Tortoise and Jiyu Fei wanted to know what this guy was looking for. Time was passing. Homam. On this day, a Buddha suddenly descended upon Mount Million Buddha. Mount Million Buddha began to shake violently. It was as if a terrifying existence had awakened. At the peak of Mount Million Buddha, a figure appeared and disappeared. It was pure Buddhist power. Everyone was shocked. It wasn't even time yet. Why was Mount Million Buddha moving? There was still half a month until March 21st, but there were countless Buddhist disciples gathered near Mount Million Buddha. The number was still increasing. That is, a Buddhist cultivator from the human world saw the figure on Mount Million Buddha and was shocked. The incarnation of the ancient Buddha, how is this possible? That figure was the incarnation of the ancient Buddha who had disappeared for a long time. Back then, during the Battle of the Sky Ruins in the human world, the incarnation of the ancient Buddha appeared. At that time, the incarnation of the ancient Buddha appeared and took away the 3 supreme Buddhist weapons that Jiyu Fei had obtained. This made Jiyu Fei extremely depressed. Nobody knew why the incarnation of the ancient Buddha appeared at the peak of Mount Million Buddha. Oh! I didn't expect him to take the initiative. A little monk in white appeared at the foot of Mount Million Buddha. At this time, the entire Mount Million Buddha was filled with Buddhist disciples. Even the Buddhist cultivators from the human world were here. The experts of the Buddhist path who were cultivating on the Myriad Buddha mountain were all shocked to the extreme. The entire Myriad Devil mountain was actually trembling. This was truly unbelievable. Especially the Million Buddha sect, the #1 power in the West Desert. The sect leader, Buddha Lord Luo, was the #1 cultivator in the West Desert. But now, this #1 cultivator was extremely respectful in front of this figure. Is he finally going to come out? An elder of the Million Buddha sect was extremely excited. The Million Buddha sect had protected Mount Million Buddha for countless years, not because it was a sacred mountain of Buddhism, but because they had other plans. Every year on the 21st of March, there would be a phenomenon on Mount Million Buddha. However, it would only last for a day before disappearing. For countless years, apart from a few old antiques in the West Desert, nobody knew the reason. But this time, the incarnation of the ancient Buddha actually appeared at the peak of Mount Million Buddha. This was a major event for the Million Buddha sect. Because their mission might be coming to an end. Yes. At this time, in a city hundreds of thousands of miles away from Mount Million Buddha, Jiyu Fei and the old tortoise suddenly sensed something and looked in the direction of Mount Million Buddha. The world seems to have changed. The old tortoise said. Yes, it's different. Is the entire West Desert a trap? Jiyu Fei frowned. How extravagant! The old tortoise exclaimed. This wasn't something an ordinary quasi-supreme could do. It had to be at least an extreme supreme, but it was impossible for an extreme supreme to appear in the heaven realm. Could it be the ancient Buddha? The old tortoise suddenly said. Very likely, we should go there and take a look. Jiyu Fei's pupils suddenly contracted as he looked at Mount Million Buddha. Although they were hundreds of thousands of miles away, he could still see the sacred mountain of Western Desert Buddhism. Then let's go take a look. The old tortoise glanced at Jiyu Fei, then the two of them disappeared from the streets of the city. No one noticed them, everything was quiet. That's, for Jiyu Fei and the old tortoise, the distance of hundreds of thousands of miles was nothing more than a blink of an eye. When they appeared near Mount Million Buddha and saw the silhouette of the Buddha on the peak, they were both shocked. The ancient Buddha was someone Jiyu Fei admired. In order to deliver all living beings from suffering, the ancient Buddha resolutely established the 6 paths of reincarnation. Although he ultimately failed, he still won the respect of the various races. At this time, more and more experts appeared near the Myriad Buddha mountain. Even experts from the primogenitor realm appeared near the mountain. Chapter 4379. Wind and clouds converged on Myriad Buddha mountain. This was all because an incarnation of the ancient Buddhist Lord appeared on the peak of Myriad Buddha mountain, attracting countless experts from the heaven realm to gather in the Western Desert Buddhist land. In a short period of time, cultivators could be seen everywhere in the Western Desert Buddhist land. Heaven realm was huge. Although it was a human world, the other alien races were very powerful too. West Desert Buddhist lands was only a part of Heaven realm. The entire western region of Heaven realm was extremely vast. Even West Desert Buddhist sect could not control it completely. West Desert Buddhist lands had some places that even Buddhist sect could not control. The extreme west of West Desert was a mysterious world of darkness. It was one of the famous forbidden areas of Heaven realm. Immortals, mortals, demons, Buddhist immortals, it was very difficult to come out after entering. That place was known as the Purgatory of Heaven realm, extreme Western Purgatory. There were unknown and powerful beings in that purgatory. At this time, there was a city outside extreme Western Purgatory. The city was branded with countless Buddhist seals. It was a Buddhist city. The Buddhist city was at the exit of extreme Western Purgatory. Its purpose was obvious. It was to stop the things in extreme Western Purgatory from coming out. This Buddhist city had existed for countless years, but it still emitted a powerful Buddhist aura. Even the black gas that swept out from extreme western purgatory would dissipate tens of miles away from the city. Roar. A terrifying roar came from extreme western purgatory. The black gas was vast. Within the black gas, one could vaguely see the silhouettes of powerful beings. Some powerful beings wanted to leave this ghastly place. However, they were blocked by the Buddhist city and could not take even half a step out. When Lord Shu Chen comes out, I want to see if this city can still stop us. Someone was talking within the black gas. Lord Shu Chen seems to be coming out in a few days. A purgatory being in the black gas nodded. Ha ha, a loud laugh suddenly came from the Buddhist city. Then, a tall bald man in a moon-white robe appeared on the city wall. With me here, don't even think about coming in. The bald man said in a low voice. TCH, little monk, you think you can stop us? An emotionless voice came from the black gas. Won't we know after trying? The bald man in the Buddhist city said disapprovingly. Humph. There are only a few more days. At that time, I'll make you wish you were dead. In the darkness, there was a powerful spiritual will fluctuation. Bring it on. Let's see who's afraid of whom. Baldy did not show any signs of weakness. All right. Good. Very good. In the darkness, the divine will rippled once more. At this time, the cities around Myriad Buddha Mountain were packed with people, and all the inns were occupied by foreign cultivators. What is he doing? Jiyu Fei and Old Tortoise had also arrived nearby. When he saw the figure on the Myriad Buddha summit, he was shocked. What made Jiyu Fei feel uneasy was that the incarnation of the Millennium Buddha Lord was just standing there quietly, as though he had turned into a statue, not moving at all. The clone of the ancient Buddhist Lord would never appear at the peak of Myriad Buddha Mountain for no reason. There are quite a lot of people here. Let's just watch the show first. Jiyu Fei told Old Tortoise. All right, let's do that. Old Tortoise nodded. Then, they retreated 1,000 miles away and hid in the clouds, quietly watching Myriad Buddha Mountain. Just as Jiyu Fei and Old Tortoise were hiding, a great battle suddenly broke out on the ground below. Two powerful forces suddenly erupted, and ripples visible to the naked eye appeared in the void and spread in all directions. For some reason, the guys from the ancestral realm and an ancestor of the Million Buddhist sect suddenly fought. Jiyu Fei glanced down and saw that the expert from the ancestral realm was extremely powerful. He could tear a quasi-supreme being in half with just a split of his hands. Compared to the expert from the ancestral realm, the great ancestor of the Million Buddhist sect was much weaker. Soon, the battle ended. The expert from the primogenitor realm punched through the ancestral ancestor of the Million Buddhist sect. With a shake of his arm, the ancestral ancestor of the Million Buddhist sect exploded, his body and soul destroyed. The expert from the ancestral realm was a young man in green. Yi Beichen, the Eastern Supreme King of the ancestral realm? Jiyu Fei could not help but be stunned when he saw the young man. Why was this guy here? The Eastern Yi clan of the ancestral realm was definitely one of the most ancient and powerful forces in the ancestral realm. Compared to the Wood clan of the ancestral realm, the Yi clan was not just a little stronger. The Yi clan was even stronger than the Sky clan of the southern region and the Chu clan of the ancestral realm. It was a super ancient force that had been passed down for countless years, because there was Yi Qingtian in the clan. Who was Yi Qingtian? He had walked his own path and was an alternative eternal existence. What Yi Beichen, Yi Shichen? Old Tortoise asked. If we were in the ancestral realm, he wouldn't even need to make a move. Just the pressure he released would be enough to destroy your body and soul, Jiyu Fei said indifferently. What? Old Tortoise was shocked. He could not afford to offend such a powerful existence. Yi Beichen glanced in the direction of Jiyu Fei and Old Tortoise, then retracted his gaze. He took a step and instantly disappeared into the void. Very soon, battles broke out in other places. The entire western desert Buddhist lands were in turmoil. When immortals fought, the common people suffered. This saying was not wrong. A quasi-supreme existence was already the strongest existence in the heavenly realm and the human realm. Once a battle broke out between experts of this level, it would be very terrifying. They could wipe out a region from the ground and plunge billions of lives into misery and suffering. The destructive power was earth-shattering. All the forces were fighting, both in the open and in the dark. No one knew how many people would fall. In particular, the experts of the ancestral realm had great grievances with the experts of the heavenly realm and the human realm. From the beginning, the experts of the ancestral realm did not treat the humans of the heavenly realm and the human realm as human beings. However, with Gu Fei's powerful attack, those fellows from the ancestral realm were also afraid. Many of the experts from the ancestral realm had already left the heavenly realm. However, some of the experts from the ancestral realm who had no dealings with Gu Fei did not leave the heavenly realm. They had no enmity with Gu Fei, so Gu Fei would not target them. For example, the Yi clan and other forces with ancient inheritances still wanted to consolidate their territory in the heavenly realm and were unwilling to leave just like that. Boom! Just as the various forces were fighting openly and covertly, a loud sound suddenly came from Myriad Buddha Mountain. Then, endless Buddhist light erupted from the peak of Myriad Buddha Mountain. It was as if a golden divine sun had appeared at the peak of Myriad Buddha Mountain, illuminating the entire western desert Buddhist lands. Grandpa, that is, in a small town hundreds of thousands of miles away from Myriad Buddha Mountain, a child about 6 or 7 years old in ragged clothes looked at the sky in shock. At this moment, the entire sky turned golden. There was even a faint Buddhist sound lingering in the void, and a peaceful aura spread between the heavens and the earth. The child, who was originally ill, was illuminated by the Buddha's light that descended from the sky, and his illness instantly recovered by more than half. The Lord Buddha has appeared. An old man beside the child knelt on the ground excitedly, kowtowing in the direction of Myriad Buddha Mountain. Tears streamed down his face. His only grandson had been gravely ill and was on the verge of death. Who would have thought that the legendary Buddhist light would appear? The Buddha's light could cure all illnesses. The Lord Buddha has appeared. This scene was happening everywhere in the western desert Buddhist land. Those who had been sick for a long time were all healed by the Buddha's light that descended from the heavens. It was too magical. Countless ordinary people saw all of this as the legendary Buddha's sign. The Lord Buddha had appeared to deliver all living beings from suffering. It wasn't just the human race. Other races were also undergoing shocking changes under the Buddhist light. Withered trees sprouted, and countless alien races that were on the brink of death were rejuvenated. Countless living beings were kowtowing in the direction of Myriad Buddha Mountain. Good heavens! Gu Fei couldn't help but be shocked at this scene. He could see countless strange auras gathering towards Myriad Buddha Mountain. That was the power of faith, or rather, the power of faith. The Buddhist sects were condensing the power of faith of all living beings to increase their providence. Of course, providence was too illusory. However, today, Gu Fei had witnessed this incredible method of the Buddhist sects. The faith of all living beings had turned into providence to protect Myriad Buddha Mountain. This power was probably comparable to the power of the extreme path. Moreover, this power didn't trigger the power of heavenly punishment. How is this possible? The old tortoise was dumbfounded. He had also witnessed this shocking scene. Not only the old tortoise, but the other quasi-supreme existences also saw it. There was no one who wasn't shocked. Although this power was peaceful, once it erupted, it was enough to crush everything. It was no joke. The path that Gu Fei walked had nothing to do with providence. In fact, he didn't care at all. As long as he was strong enough, it didn't matter whether it was providence or not. He could destroy it all with a single punch. No wonder the Buddhist sects have been passed down for so many years and produced so many expert. The old tortoise sighed. The monster race didn't care about the illusory providence, but now it seemed that the Buddhist sects had indeed taken a different path. The phenomenon of the Buddhist sects had already appeared even before the 21st of March. Countless power of faith gathered toward Myriad Buddha Mountain, and the incarnation of the ancient Buddhist Lord at the peak of the mountain was long gone. Rumble, the entire Myriad Buddha Mountain was shaking, and the mountain kept cracking, revealing pitch-black cracks. From time to time, Golden Buddhist light flashed within the cracks. Myriad Buddha Palace, in a Buddhist city thousands of miles away from Myriad Buddha Mountain, a little monk holding a purple gold alms bowl suddenly raised his head. Golden Buddhist patterns were faintly visible in his eyes. "The immortal golden Buddha tree is mine." As the little monk said that, he directly turned into a beam of Buddhist light and rushed toward Myriad Buddha Mountain. "Haha, the Myriad Buddha Palace has reappeared. I can't miss this opportunity." A figure emitting the divine light of the 5 elements appeared at the foot of Myriad Buddha Mountain. "This is an important place of the Buddhist sects. Trespassers will die." At this moment, an old voice sounded. An old monk stepped on a golden lotus and walked over from afar. "It's him." Chapter 4380. Heavenly Realm, Western Desert Buddhist Land. Buddhist aura shone brightly. Boundless Buddhist aura erupted from the peak of the Myriad Buddha Mountain, enveloping the entire Western Desert. Under the Buddhist aura, countless living beings in the Western Desert benefited greatly. The Buddhist aura could expel diseases and pull those on the brink of death back from the gates of hell. The Buddhist aura could also strengthen the physique of living beings. Although it could not change the physique of countless living beings, it could make them stronger. The Buddhist aura was a miracle in the eyes of countless living beings in the Western Desert. At this moment, billions of living beings in the Western Desert knelt devoutly in the direction of the Myriad Buddha Mountain. Their faith in Buddhism grew. The appearance of the Buddhist aura strengthened the hearts of all living beings in the Western Desert. The Western Desert Buddhist sect also took this opportunity to crazily gather the power of faith from billions of living beings. The power of faith could be converted into Buddhist energy. The Myriad Buddha Mountain was gathering endless Buddhist energy. As a result, the Myriad Buddha Palace was opened. The Myriad Buddha Palace was a palace of the ancient Buddhist Lord. The ancient Buddhist Lord left his teachings in the human realm. In the spiritual mountain of the human realm, there was a Buddhist palace left behind by the ancient Buddhist Lord. That Buddhist palace was hidden in the blessed Buddha realm. In the heavenly realm, the ancient Buddhist Lord also left behind a Buddhist palace. This was the legendary Myriad Buddha Palace. It was no secret that the Myriad Buddha Palace was located on the Myriad Buddha Mountain. One must know that the reason why the Myriad Buddha Mountain was called the Myriad Buddha Mountain was because of the Myriad Buddha Palace. Rumble, at this moment, the endless power of faith crazily gathered towards the Myriad Buddha Mountain. The entire Myriad Buddha Mountain shook and cracks appeared on the mountain. Roar. At this moment, a roar came from afar. Then, a huge figure riding on a black cloud broke through the layers of Buddhist aura and arrived at the Myriad Buddha Mountain in an instant. The black cloud suddenly retreated like a receding tide, swallowed by a black figure. Swoosh. The black figure directly rushed towards a crack on the Myriad Buddha Mountain. This is an important place of Buddhist sect. Don't be presumptuous. A golden figure suddenly appeared in front of the crack, blocking the black figure. Scram. The black figure roared and waved his right hand. Immediately, 5 rays of black light shot out from his hand and pierced towards the Buddhist cultivator. Buddha is merciful. The Buddhist expert formed a Buddhist seal with both hands, and the Buddhist seal rushed out of his hands and collided with the 5 black lights that pierced through the air. The Buddhist seal and the 5 beams of dark light immediately dissipated in the void. The Western Desert's golden Buddha Supreme is indeed powerful. Someone whispered in the distant sky. It doesn't matter if he's not powerful. The golden Buddha Supreme is an existence that can stand shoulder to shoulder with a quasi-supreme. Someone said. The Western Desert Buddhist sect really has a deep foundation, Old Tortoise said in a low voice. The inheritance of the Millennium Buddha Lord is naturally not weak. You should know that the Millennium Buddha Lord is one of the strongest supreme beings of the human race. Jiyu Fei nodded. My father isn't any weaker than others. Old Tortoise was not convinced. Jiyu Fei smiled bitterly and didn't say anything. It was really difficult to say who was stronger between the Millennium Buddha Lord and the Tai Huang because these two supreme beings didn't meet. They were in different generations. The era of the Tai Huang was much earlier than the Millennium Buddha Lord. When the Millennium Buddha Lord appeared, the Tai Huang had already disappeared. At this time, The black figure and the golden Buddha Supreme guarding in front of the crack of Myriad Buddha Mountain started fighting. The existence that dared to fight in Myriad Buddha Mountain was naturally not weak. The black figure was very strong. He transformed into thousands of figures and the entire sky was filled with his figure. A cold and gloomy aura emanated from the bodies of the countless black figures. Under the impact of this aura, the surrounding void seemed to solidify. The power of yin. Old Tortoise was a little uncertain. It's the power of yin, Gu Fei said. The power of yin was fundamentally different from the power of yin. To a certain extent, the power of yin was between the power of yin and the power of devil. Those who cultivated the power of yin could become a devil or a god. Becoming a god or a devil was only a matter of a thought. A devil? When Old Tortoise heard this, his face immediately became gloomy. His ancestral land had almost been refined by the ancestral realm's ancestral demons. Naturally, he didn't have a good impression of demons. Gu Fei shook his head. The black figure was very strong, and the power of yin was also very powerful. However, it was not the power of devil. Otherwise, it would not have appeared here. It should be known that demons were the public enemy of the world. As long as a demon appeared, they would be surrounded and killed. Boundless Buddhist Dharma. At this time, the golden Buddha Supreme guarding in front of the crack of Myriad Buddha Mountain shouted. The Buddhist voice was vast and mighty, and the countless black figures were all scattered. The black figure's true body was also revealed. What a good boundless Buddhist Dharma. The black figure vomited blood and flew back. 1,000 Buddhas move the cosmos. The golden Buddha Supreme slapped his hands at the black figure. In the next moment, countless golden palm shadows appeared between heaven and earth. The void was filled with palm shadows, filling every inch of the void. The black figure was directly enveloped by countless golden Buddha palms. The countless Buddha palms directly slapped the black figure's body, and then disappeared. In the void, the black figure stopped in his tracks in horror. What's going on? Old Tortoise was a little confused. His dead meat. Gu Fei said indifferently. How is this possible? The black figure let out a miserable howl. In the next moment, countless rays of Buddha light rushed out of his body, and his figure instantly disappeared in the Buddha light. His body and soul were completely destroyed. That's right, this black shadow, a quasi-supreme that had appeared out of nowhere, was actually directly killed by this golden-bodied Buddhist supreme, not even leaving a trace behind. Even the legendary palm technique that descends from the sky doesn't seem to have this kind of power, Old Tortoise muttered. This is the 1,000 Buddha palms of Buddhism, Gu Fei said indifferently. Once this divine power was mastered, it would be like 1,000 Buddhas attacking at the same time. Its power was naturally ridiculously great. You know quite a lot. Old Tortoise glanced at Gu Fei and said. Of course. Don't you know who I am? Gu Fei said proudly. Hey, stop being so smug. Old Tortoise did not think much of it. Just as Gu Fei and Old Tortoise were chatting, more and more cracks appeared on the 1,000 Buddha Mountain. Through those cracks, one could vaguely see that there was another world inside the mountain. There seemed to be a chain of palaces inside the mountain, and pure Buddhist aura seeped out. The legendary immortal golden Buddha tree was in the 1,000 Buddha Palace. Experts from all sides were eager to try, but with the golden Buddha Supreme guarding there, no one dared to make a move. Chapter 4381. The western desert of the heavenly domain had attracted the attention of countless experts. The seal of the sacred mountain of the Western Desert Buddhist sect, Myriad Buddha Mountain, had been weakened to the extreme by some unknown force. Cracks had appeared. Through the cracks, people outside could even see the connected palaces inside. The palace of the ancient Buddhist lord was naturally extraordinary. There was another world inside the Myriad Buddha Mountain. Almost all the experts in the heavenly domain had their eyes on the Myriad Buddha Mountain. Boom! In the depths of the extreme western purgatory, a demon city emitting boundless murderous aura rose from the ground. The huge demon city shook the heavens and the earth as it charged towards the demon city outside the purgatory. At the same time, in other places of the extreme western purgatory, demon city also rose into the sky. With boundless murderous intent, they charged towards the demon city outside the purgatory. Boundless black aura swept out from the purgatory, covering the sky and earth. Within the black aura, ghostly wails and divine howls could be heard. This was the soul-stealing demonic sound. If mortals heard it, their souls would immediately scatter. Even if cultivators heard it, they would also die. Buzz. The demon city outside the purgatory suddenly shook. Buddhist runes appeared on the city. The runes interweaved into Buddhist seals and rushed out of the city. Countless Buddhist seals formed a super-huge net, blocking the black aura sweeping out from the purgatory. The huge net formed by the golden Buddhist seals not only blocked the overwhelming black aura, but also sealed the exit of the extreme western purgatory, blocking the countless purgatory living beings that wanted to rush out. Roar. Within the black aura, many huge figures appeared indistinctly. The terrifying and ferocious purgatory living beings were roaring. Boom. With a loud sound, a huge claw reached out from the black aura and slammed against the golden net. However, in the next moment, the Buddhist power on the golden net exploded and repelled the huge claw. Bam! Another dull sound was heard. A purgatory living being the size of a small mountain actually slammed against the golden net. However, the result was the same. It was repelled by the Buddhist magic subduing net and rolled into the black aura. What should we do? The true purgatory masters are about to come out. On the walls of the demon city, a group of Buddhist soldiers appeared. The leader was a monk in white with a golden necklace around his neck. Send a message to the sacred mountain immediately. The middle-aged monk stared at the golden Buddha net in front of him and said in a deep voice, "Yes, eldest senior brother." A young monk beside the middle-aged monk hurriedly accepted the order and left. Soon, a flare of faith shot out of Buddha City and disappeared into the horizon. However, just as the Buddha City sent out the signal for help, a huge black shadow appeared within the golden Buddha net. Endless black chi immediately converged towards the black shadow in a frenzy. The black gas gradually thinned out, and a demon city that was even larger than a mountain appeared in the sky. The demon city gave off an endless fiendish aura. Open. A powerful spiritual will rippled out from the purgatory demon city. In the next moment, the entire purgatory demon city collided with the golden Buddha net. Boom. The purgatory demon city crashed into the golden Buddha net. The huge golden Buddha radiance vibrated violently. Countless demonic patterns emitted resplendent Buddha radiance. The Buddha net actually managed to block the purgatory demon city's collision. Moreover, the Buddha radiance on the golden Buddha net continued to gather and a huge Buddha shadow appeared in the sky. The Buddha shadow stretched out its right hand and slapped towards the purgatory demon city. Rumble, it was as though the entire sky was enveloped by the Buddha's palm. The purgatory demon city that was even larger than a mountain was as weak as an ant under the Buddha's palm. Boom. With a loud bang, the purgatory demon city was slapped away by the Buddha's palm. When the purgatory demon city was slapped away, the huge Buddha shadow dissipated in the void and turned into spots of Buddha radiance before returning to the golden Buddha net. Haha, Shuchen, are you defeated now? At this moment, a loud laugh was heard. Another purgatory demon city appeared nearby. A huge demon shadow appeared in the sky above the demon city and was laughing at the sky, seemingly very happy. Wu Shong, if you are so capable, then go ahead. Don't make sarcastic remarks here. At this moment, the purgatory demon city that was slapped away by the Buddha's palm rushed back from afar. The Buddha's palm attack looked extremely powerful, but it did not cause any damage to the purgatory demon city. Haha, alright, this purgatory master will show you what I am capable of today. The purgatory master named Wu Shong laughed and attacked. 9 drops of red liquid rushed out of the unperishable purgatory city. In the next moment, the 9 drops of red liquid exploded at the same time, turning into a towering blood wave that swept towards the golden Buddha net. A thick smell of blood permeated the air. Blood purgatory sea? The void purgatory master's figure appeared on top of the city. When he saw the 9 drops of blood turn into a sea of blood, he was slightly shocked. You actually refined the blood purgatory sea? How is that possible? The void purgatory master said in shock. Hee hee. Wu Shong Purgatory Master only chuckled and did not say anything. At this moment, the sea of blood formed by the 9 drops of blood pounced on the golden Buddha net. In the next instant, the Buddha seal on the golden Buddha net dimmed. What? The Void Purgatory Master was shocked. It seemed like the Blood Purgatory Sea could indeed deal with the Buddhist sect's golden Buddha net. Due to the existence of the golden Buddha net, it was impossible for the creatures of the extreme Western Purgatory to escape. This was equivalent to sealing the extreme Western Purgatory. It was already impressive that the Western Desert Buddhist sect could seal the extreme Western Purgatory single-handedly. In the extreme Western Purgatory, there were 7 Purgatory Masters. Each Purgatory Master was an existence that could fight against a quasi-supremacy from the outside world. Soon, the golden Buddha net was corroded by the Blood Purgatory Sea, leaving a huge hole. Oh no! All the Buddhist disciples on top of the Buddha city outside the Buddha net were shocked when they saw this. All the Buddhist disciples in the Buddha city knew very well that once the creatures of the purgatory charged out of the purgatory, countless creatures of the Western Desert would suffer a calamity. Ha ha! Void Purgatory, I'll make a move first. The Void Purgatory Master laughed heartily as he drove the Purgatory Demon City out of the hole in the golden Buddha net. As soon as the Purgatory Demon City left the purgatory, endless black murderous aura erupted like 100,000 volcanoes. The entire Western Desert was shrouded in darkness. That's endless evil aura surged from the west. Jiyu Fei and Old Tortoise, who were near the myriad Buddha mountain, could not help but frown. It's not a pure demon, but it's also a great omen. Moreover, it's fierce and evil, Jiyu Fei said as he looked to the west. Oh no! Chapter 4382. The Western Desert of the Heavenly Realm was a different place. It used to be a barren land with sparse spiritual energy. But after the Buddhist sect's transformation, it became a Buddhist land. However, the far west was extremely dangerous. The Western Desert's Buddhist lands happened to suppress the evil in the far west. To the west of the Western Desert was the extreme west. It was shrouded in darkness all year round. Even sunlight couldn't shine in. It was purgatory, a terrifying purgatory. Even when the experts of the primogenitor realm fought everywhere, they stopped at the Western Desert. Those guys from the primogenitor realm clearly saw the danger. The Western Desert wasn't simple, and the extreme West Purgatory was even more so. It was an extremely dangerous place. Could it be that those guys from the Western Purgatory have escaped? The Old Tortoise looked to the west in shock. He was the leader of the demon race in the heavenly realm. Naturally, he knew what was in the extreme west. It was a terrifying purgatory that had existed for countless years. The creatures in the purgatory were extremely powerful. Sometimes, they were even scarier than demons. Western Purgatory? Jiyu Fei's expression changed when he heard this. The purgatory was a place even more terrifying than hell. The living beings there were all extremely ferocious and bloodthirsty. If the great Avilders escaped, they would definitely bring disaster to the entire heavenly realm. At that time, the entire heavenly realm would never have a day of peace. The Buddhists suppressed the extreme Western Purgatory with their own strength. I have to admire them. The usually unruly Old Tortoise sighed. Rumble, at this time, the myriad Buddha mountain was still shaking. Cracks continued to appear on the mountain. The entire mountain seemed like it could collapse at any time. However, with the golden Buddha standing guard, no one dared to step forward. The Buddhist light from the peak of the myriad Buddha mountain became increasingly resplendent. Faint chanting could be heard in the void, as if a supreme Buddhist lord was preaching. As the Buddhist hymns rang out, the auspicious atmosphere in the world multiplied. The entire Western Desert Buddhist land seemed to have turned into a true Buddhist country. Under the envelopment of the Buddhist light, all the Buddhist disciples felt as though their cultivation levels were constantly rising. Boom! Ha ha! A loud noise was accompanied by an insolent laughter, and a cloud of black gas came from the far west. In the blink of an eye, the black gas covered half of the sky. Everyone could feel the terrifying fiendish aura emanating from the black gas. A peerless ominous being had arrived. How is this possible? How can this evil creature break through the golden Buddha net? The golden Buddha standing guard in front of the myriad Buddha mountain was shocked. Hihi, is the golden Buddha net very powerful? An incomparably proud voice came from the black gas. Demon, don't be so arrogant. After saying that, golden-bodied Tao Master formed a Buddhist seal with his hand and blasted it at the black chi. Everywhere the Buddhist seal passed, the fiendish aura dissipated. A disdainful sneer came from the black gas. Then, an endless amount of murderous aura spread out, turning into a huge black hand that met the incoming Buddhist seal. Boom! With a loud bang, the two forces instantly collided. The two forces turned into a powerful destructive storm that swept out in all directions. The void shook and ripples that were visible to the naked eye spread out like water waves. After being hit by the golden Buddha, a part of the black gas dissipated. A huge demon city appeared in front of everyone, emitting a monstrous fiendish aura. As expected, the great ominous beings from the far west have really come out. Old Tortoise said in surprise when he saw this. Let's just watch from the side. Jiu Fei shrugged and said indifferently. Old Tortoise was speechless when he heard this. Golden-bodied Buddha? In the demon city, a strong wave of divine will spread out. A figure appeared in the sky above the demon city. The blurry figure emitted a terrifying aura. Wushang, are you the master of Wushang Purgatory? The golden-bodied Buddha stared at the figure with a solemn expression. Haha, I didn't expect someone in this world to know of my existence. The black figure laughed. At this moment, another loud noise came from the far west. Another cloud of black gas rushed out from the far west and instantly shrouded half of the sky. Void dust, you are too useless. Did you only come out now? The master of Wushang Purgatory said loudly. Wushang, you bastard. The void dust purgatory master scolded the master of Wushang Purgatory. This guy escaped after using the purgatory blood sea to break the golden Buddha net. However, he was stopped by the experts of the Buddhist sect in the Buddha city and a great battle ensued. Although he managed to kill those guys, he also lost quite a few experts of the purgatory. Haha, look at your flustered and exasperated face. Did you suffer a loss? The master of Wushang Purgatory was amused. Damn it. The void dust purgatory master was going crazy. However, this was not the time to settle the score with the master of Wushang Purgatory. Both of you come at me together. The golden-bodied Buddha put his palms together and said calmly. Buddhist patterns appeared on his body and swam continuously, occasionally forming ancient Buddhist diagrams. At this moment, the golden-bodied Buddha seemed to have merged with the entire myriad Buddha mountain. Every move he made could shatter the void of heaven and earth. Shameless boasting. The master of Wushang Purgatory sneered. He rushed out of the Devil City and punched at the golden-bodied Buddha. An extremely ferocious power exploded from the master of Wushang Purgatory's fist. The surrounding void immediately cracked. A punch that can move heaven and earth. This great fierce of the extreme Western Purgatory is quite capable. Jiu Fei could not help but nod when he saw this. It's not as simple as that. Old Turtle glanced at Jiu Fei and said, Buddha moves the universe. The golden-bodied Buddha's body erupted with endless Buddha light. Within the Buddha light, a golden Buddha hand slapped at the master of Wushang Purgatory. Boom! There was another loud explosion. The golden-bodied Buddha's Buddha hand collided with the master of Wushang Purgatory's demonic fist. The two figures were sent flying. However, the two experts immediately charged at each other again. They moved quickly in the void and fought endlessly. A terrifying ferocious aura erupted from the master of Wushang Purgatory. It actually dispersed the surrounding Buddha light. This shocked everyone. Where did these people come from? In the primogenitor realm, the Yi family's king supreme Yi Beichen appeared in the sky. He crossed his arms and looked at everything coldly. He was a king supreme. Even though he could not use the extreme Tao in the heavenly realm, he still possessed an extremely powerful King Supreme Tao body. Moreover, the Yi family's methods were unimaginable. Chapter 4383. In the land of the far west of the heaven realm, the Buddhist sect's golden light Buddha net that sealed the far west purgatory had been broken. The peerless great ferocious Wu Shong and the peerless great ferocious Shu Chen took advantage of this rare opportunity to drive the demon city out of the Western Purgatory. The first to be attacked was the Buddhist city outside the extreme Western Purgatory. The ancient Buddha city had existed for countless years. However, this time, the Buddha city was in danger. The myriad Buddha Mountains seal had loosened, which weakened the seal on the far west Purgatory. The Purgatory Masters in the Purgatory naturally would not miss such a rare opportunity. The Master of Wu Shong Purgatory had refined a part of the Purgatory Blood Sea. The evil aura contained in the Purgatory Blood Sea was the nemesis of the Buddha sect's Golden Buddha Net. This Master of Wu Shong Purgatory was cunning. After breaking the Golden Buddha Net, he slipped away. Boom! At this moment, the Buddhist city that guarded the extreme Western Purgatory emitted an endless Buddhist light, directly dispersing the black aura in the world. A huge Buddhist figure appeared in the world. Boom! The Buddha shadow attacked the Void Purgatory Master, who was rushing out of the Purgatory. The entire sky was covered by the Buddha's palm. This attack slammed the Void Purgatory Master and the Demon City into the ground. Damn it! The Void Purgatory Master roared angrily. The entire Demon City shattered and shot into the sky. The evil aura shook the world and dispersed the endless Buddha light. Kill. Following that, countless black shadows rushed out of the Demon City and pounced towards the Buddha City. At this moment, all the experts of the Buddha sect rushed out of the Buddha City. Both sides clashed and a great battle broke out. All of you, die! The Void Dust Purgatory Master roared and attacked. Countless black lights shot out of his body. Every time a black light flashed, a Buddhist expert would be pierced and fall from the sky. Demon, I will fight you. An angry roar sounded. In the next moment, an expert with Buddha light broke through the evil aura and attacked the Void Purgatory Master. You are not worthy. The Void Dust Purgatory Master pointed a finger, and a dark light shot out from his fingertip. It tore through the void and pierced through the Buddhist expert's Buddha body. The Buddhist cultivator flew out and turned into ashes while he was still in the air, dissipating in the void. His body and soul were destroyed in an instant. All the experts of the Buddhist sect that had charged out of the city turned pale with fright when they saw this scene. There were no golden Buddhist venerables among the experts of the Buddhist sects guarding the Buddha city. Only the golden Buddhist venerables of the Buddhist sects could fight against experts at the level of the Master of the Void Dust Purgatory. Even though they knew that they were no match for the enemy, these Buddhist experts did not cower and continued to fight with their lives on the line. In the end, all of them were annihilated. Although they all died in battle, they managed to kill a few of the Void Dust Purgatory Master's capable subordinates. The Void Dust Purgatory Master was shocked and angry. This was also why the Void Dust Purgatory Master hated the Void Death Purgatory Master. The few subordinates of the Void Dust Purgatory Master were his capable assistants. When the Void Dust Purgatory Master arrived at the Myriad Buddha Mountain, the Void Death Purgatory Master was already fighting with the Golden Buddhist Venerables. At this time, Ji Fei and Old Turtle's old acquaintance, Buddha Master Ranbei, also arrived. When the Buddha Master Ranbei arrived, a golden divine bird flew from the sky and landed on the Myriad Buddha Mountain. With a flash of Buddha light, a golden-haired middle-aged man in a kasaya appeared. The Golden Eagle Buddhist Lord is here! Someone exclaimed. At this time, another Buddhist chant came from the sky, and an old monk walked over step by step. The old monk looked ordinary. There was no Buddha light on his body, and all his teeth had fallen off. However, no one dared to look down on this old monk. This old monk was one of the 3 Buddhist lords of the Western Desert Buddhist land, the sect master of the Myriad Buddha sect, Buddhist Lord Mo Luo. Buddhist Lord Mo Luo was the strongest of the 3 Buddhist lords of the Western Desert Buddhist land. The more powerful he was, the more he looked like an ordinary person. This was returning to the natural state. Then, Buddhist Lord Shi Lin stepped on Buddha light and arrived at the Myriad Buddha Mountain. In an instant, the entire Myriad Buddha Mountain was filled with 3 Buddhist lords. This made the experts from all sides nervous. After all, these were 3 quasi-supremes. The power of the Western Desert Buddhist sect was not to be underestimated. At this time, 4 quasi-supremes had already appeared. However, everyone knew that this was far from the true power of the Western Desert Buddhist sect. What are you guys waiting for? Is the immortal golden Buddha tree going to come out on its own? Someone shouted. That's right. Let's attack together. Do we have to be afraid of these big baldies? Someone shouted. However, no one made a move. What a joke. These were the 3 Buddhist lords of the Western Desert. Moreover, this was the territory of the Buddhist sect. The myriad Buddha mountain was filled with endless Buddhist power. Whoever made a move first would be unlucky. This is the Buddhist sect's territory. Trespassers will die. Buddha Master Ran Bei said the same thing. Although the Buddhist sect emphasized mercy, they had their own methods of subduing demons. Since no one is making a move, then I will. Right at this moment, a voice resounded. After that, a tall and sturdy man like an iron tower walked over from afar. An extremely tyrannical aura erupted from the burly man's body. On the burly man's shoulder was a sledgehammer. The sledgehammer was engraved with countless ancient Tao patterns. Trespassers will die. Then I, Hong Tiantu, am here to die. The man shouted, his voice was like a bell. Ah, he is the Hong Tiantu who terrorized all the forces in the central region with his hammer. The big guy from the ancestral realm's Hong clan? Someone exclaimed. Hong Tiantu was a quasi-supremes from the ancestral realm's Hong clan. He was sent to the heaven realm by the Hong clan. This guy was extremely strong and his weapon was a giant hammer. Once the hammer appeared, it could destroy the sky and the earth. It was as if it could kill all enemies. Die. The golden eagle Buddhist lord's body swayed and a pair of golden wings immediately appeared on his back. With a flap of his wings, he immediately turned into a golden light and attacked Hong Tiantu. Hong Tiantu waved his hammer and smashed forward. Boom! The sky shook and the golden eagle lord's body appeared far away. He had been blown away by Hong Tiantu's hammer. Everyone was shocked. That was the golden eagle lord, one of the 3 Buddha lords of the Western Desert. Hong Tiantu had blown him away with a hammer. Whoosh! The golden eagle Buddhist lord flapped his wings, and rays of golden light immediately rushed out from his wings, turning into sharp sword lights that pierced towards Hong Tiantu in an earth-shattering manner. Die! Hong Tiantu roared, and a metallic luster burst out from his body. He ignored the countless sword lights that pierced through him, and directly swung his sledgehammer at the golden eagle Buddhist lord to kill. The countless sword lights landed on Hong Tiantu's body and were all blown away. Such sharp sword lights could cut through the sky, but they could not even cut through Hong Tiantu's skin. A body practitioner? Ji Yufei's eyes lit up when he saw this. Hong Tiantu was not simple. This big guy was simply a quasi-supreme Tao artifact in human form,